This story starts in a hazy rain-streaked memory. A young man lies motionless in bed. His internal monologue expresses a desperate wish for freedom, not death. Looking up with sorrow, his final gaze settles on an open, ornate book. From the darkness, a thought emerges. For that wish, he would do anything. A monstrous clawed hand descends as he peacefully accepts this grim pact. A wisp of ethereal energy drifts upward, signifying a soul's passage. Following this, a pair of closed eyes begins to flutter open slowly. His eyes open fully, now sharp and clear with a new awareness. The young man awakens on a stone slab, looking up with confusion. His eyes dart around, taking in the strange dungeon-like surroundings. Pure bewilderment crosses his face as he questions what is happening. Pushing himself up, he stands barefoot on the cold stone floor. He finds himself on an altar in a room with pillars and bookshelves. His mind reels from the overwhelming flood of information from all his senses. A close-up on his eye reveals the shock of this new sensory experience. He sits up slightly, his expression dazed by the unfamiliar sensations. The sound of footsteps echoes as a figure approaches from the shadows. A tall, hooded man with a scarred face and cruel smile emerges. The man holds a strange, ribbon-like staff in his gnarled hand. He looms over the boy, observing that he seems to have a gift. The man's eyes narrow with an intense, scrutinizing gaze. He introduces himself as Holos Carmen, his voice echoing in the chamber. Holos declares himself a mage and the boy's new lord. He stands with an air of absolute authority, ready to issue a command. His long-nailed hand gestures with menacing power. Addressing the boy as Fleshman, he points a commanding finger at him. He utters a single powerful command for the boy to kneel. Fleshman's body begins to move against his will, trembling with effort. His legs buckle as the unseen force compels him to collapse. His bare feet struggle for purchase before he falls to his knees. He lands hard on the stone floor, head bowed in submission. Kneeling before his master, the boy's mind begins to process his new reality. He recalls the feeling of the gray stone bed and the scent of mold. The impossible feeling of a moving body and clear vision was his first realization. A memory surfaces of his old life, confined to a lavish bedroom. He remembers the pitying whispers of staff about his constant pain. They gossiped that he hadn't been able to leave his bed for years. He recalls sweating and panting, listening to their words. He knew they were talking, resigned to the truth of their pity. Clenching the sheets, he accepted that their words were all true. He relives the memory of intense pain racking his body. A maid is heard explaining his strange, incurable disease to someone. He remembers panting, exhausted from the constant, weakening agony. A maid offers hope, telling him a renowned white mage is visiting. She explains that his illness has no known cause or treatment. She smiles, assuring him that he will surely be healed. He saw the resignation in her eyes, knowing it was false hope. He had accepted that his illness was incurable, a certain fate. But his internal monologue reveals that he only believed it was the end. Kneeling on the floor, he realizes he doesn't have his usual. A memory confirms the chilling absence of his own heartbeat. The splitting headaches that felt like a rapier in his brain are gone. The gut-wrenching pains that felt like his insides were rotting have vanished. The agony he thought would never end has simply ceased to exist. His eyes are wide with a terrifying clarity as this truth crashes down. His consciousness, once a mess clouded by relentless pain, is now impossibly sharp, like a freshly whetted knife. He thinks that it may sound strange, but in that moment, for the very first time in his entire existence, he felt normal, clutching his chest where a heart no longer beats. A memory flashes of his frail, dying body in the canopied bed. He sees a vision of himself finally able to walk to the window. His spirit opens the window, his hand resting on the cool glass. His hand pushes the window open, an act he never could perform. Looking out, he understood a human's feelings for the first time. Back in the present, Hollis's voice repeats his new name, Fleshman. The mage declares him his slave, one who has returned from the underworld. Hollis addresses him as the Nameless One, preparing to grant him a name. The boy looks up, his expression dazed and confused. He wonders aloud what he's doing here, still processing his situation. Hollis bestows a name upon him. For one who has reached the end, he is End. The mage explains that his necromancy has granted End a transient life. End's mind latches onto the words necromancy and transient life. He recognizes these concepts from books he read, despite his lack of schooling. He recalls depictions of abominable black mages who control the deceased. With dawning certainty, he understands that Holos is a necromancer. A wave of understanding rushes through him, the words coming straight to his head. It is something so clear, a fact he now grasps with chilling certainty. He bows his head slightly, acknowledging the truth that anyone would understand. His hand moves to his chest, a gesture of profound realization. He places his hand over his heart, or where it should be. A single stark thought solidifies in his mind: he is dead. Hollis turns, his voice commanding End to come with him now. End understands he was brought back by this man's wicked magical power. He follows his new master, his expression unreadable and subservient. Walking barefoot across a magic circle, he feels he has awakened once more. His eyes are wide with a new intense awareness of his state. The sound of Hollis's staff tapping on the stone floor echoes. Hollis leads the way and End follows a few steps behind him. The soft padding of End's bare feet marks his first steps in years. He wonders to himself how long it has been since he could walk. His thoughts are filled with the surreal novelty of normal movement. He knows he is dead, but the experience still doesn't feel real. He questions where he is and why he was resurrected from death. He stands silently behind Hollis, his mind filled with questions. He admits to himself that, frankly, he still doesn't understand what's happening. Hollis notes with satisfaction that his words are getting through to End. The mage states that if he couldn't command End, he'd be worthless. End watches as Hollis turns and leads him deeper into the unknown. A young man with white hair considers what might happen without verbal commands. A split image reveals his dawning horror as he questions what he's being forced into. His expression shifts to disbelief as he realizes the horrifying truth of his situation. Standing barefoot on a stone step, he reflects on the actions of his new master. Following the Lord, he resolves to grasp the circumstances rather than question or escape. He watches his master approach a massive, ornate door set in a stone hall. The Lord's hand is shown unlatching the heavy, intricate mechanism of the door. The young man, End, turns his head, his expression unreadable as the door opens. Standing in the doorway, they look upon a grim room filled with corpses on slabs. End's eyes widen in utter shock as he mouths the word, corpses. The Lord glances back at the stunned boy with a slightly questioning expression. End remains silent, his face a neutral mask, processing the macabre sight before him. His master issues a stern command for him to stay in the room until told otherwise. The heavy door slams shut with a loud thud, its sound echoing in the hall. In the sudden silence, End stands with his back to the door, seemingly composed. A moment of quiet contemplation passes, his expression remaining perfectly neutral. His hands clench into tight fists, betraying his hidden, powerful emotions. He throws his arms up in a sudden, explosive burst of unrestrained joy. Standing with his back to the viewer, he excitedly wiggles his hands in the air. He joyfully swings his legs, testing the newfound freedom of his body. Leaping up and down, he revels in the simple, exhilarating act of movement. His bare foot touches the cold stone floor, grounding him in his new reality. He covers his mouth, overwhelmed by the feeling of this dream come true. A blush of pure emotion spreads across his face as he voices his disbelief. Composing himself with a deep breath, he prepares for whatever comes next. He stands before one of the corpses, his demeanor now serious and analytical. Surveying the grim morgue, he likens it to a macabre kind of storehouse. He decides that his immediate priority is to procure information, however little. Walking through the room, he wonders if these corpses might become his colleagues. He approaches a tall cabinet, Riley noting his old room was more comfortable. He pulls open one of the drawers, beginning his search for anything useful. His hand grips the handle of another drawer, continuing his methodical search. Inside, he finds several large, sharp fangs resting on a piece of cloth. He looks at the fangs with confusion, questioning what they could be. Rummaging through the cabinet, he dismisses the fangs as unnecessary for now. He pulls open another drawer with a slight rattling sound, his search continuing. His eyes widen in genuine surprise at what he has discovered inside. The drawer contains a simple, square, handheld mirror, its surface polished. A faint, pleased smile appears as he calls his discovery a gem. He touches his own throat, contemplating his newfound ability to speak. He marvels that it has been a long time since he could speak without pain. Looking at his reflection, he confirms with a quiet, "Yeah, that it is him." He acknowledges that he is still himself, holding the mirror in his hand. The main difference, he reflects, is this body that can move so freely. A newfound burning desire for knowledge about his situation fills him. He wants to learn about the room, necromancy, and his own existence. His eyes burn with intensity as he wonders what, exactly, he has become. Realizing the door is unlocked, he believes he can now do anything. He grips the heavy latch on the door with a show of determined force. With both hands, he pushes against the massive door, trying to force it open. A close-up on his eye reveals his intense focus and physical effort. He pauses, a flicker of confusion crossing his face as the door remains unmoved. He grunts with renewed effort, straining his body against the unyielding door. He complains that the door is stiff and simply will not budge. The Lord's command to stay in the room echoes ominously in his memory. His eyes widen in sudden, dawning terror as he finally understands. The Lord's commanding face flashes in his mind, overlaid with his own fear. He sees a vision of himself kneeling before the Lord, a reflection of his bondage. He stands frozen, his hands raised in shock at his own powerlessness. His expression is one of sheer horror as the terrible truth sinks in. His legs begin to give way as the magical command overpowers his will. Collapsed against the door, he realizes he can't push it, not that it's stiff. His hand slides limply down the door, symbolizing his body's ultimate betrayal. He falls to his knees, utterly defeated by the invisible, magical force. He understands his body is prioritizing the Lord's command above all else. A bitter, hollow laugh escapes him as he kneels in defeat by the door. He dismisses the entire absurd situation as poppycock, a cruel farce. He reflects that, at least when he was alive, he controlled his own body. He resigns himself to following directions, seeing the Lord as a kind of savior. His passive acceptance instantly transforms into pure, unforgiving rage. He cannot forgive his master for having the right to freely decide his fate. The intensity of his own anger is so great that it is shocking even to himself. Reaching a hand out, he realizes with absolute certainty that he doesn't want to die. He considers that he has, by some luck, been given a second chance at life. Because of this precious second chance, he cannot simply let it go. He clutches his chest, vowing to use any means necessary to survive. His expression hardens with steely resolve as he promises to stay alive. He recalls realizing he'd become a blasphemous being with no heartbeat. Despite this, he knows it's fine because he can still form conscious thoughts. He decides he must gather more information, even as a being of darkness. He seeks information that will allow him to finally escape the Lord's control. The heavy door creaks open with a loud groan, interrupting his thoughts. The imposing hooded figure of his Lord stands silently in the doorway. The Lord looks down at him, his expression stern and deeply assessing. End looks back at his master, his face a mask of quiet, unreadable neutrality. The Lord lets out a low grunt of acknowledgement, breaking the silence. He holds a heavy, brutish-looking hatchet in his gnarled hand. With a grim smirk, he offers the crude weapon to the boy. The large cleaver-like hatchet is presented to End, blade first. End looks at the weapon with a flicker of confusion, identifying it. He takes the hatchet from his master's outstretched hand. He staggers backward, surprised by the unexpected weight of the weapon. Leaning on the heavy hatchet for support, he remarks on its weight. The Lord announces they are going for a test drive and orders him to come. End's eyes reflect a hint of unease at his master's ominous command. The scene reveals the massive, decaying mansion where they reside. Under the full moon, End stands outside, dwarfed by the grand estate. He murmurs in awe and disbelief that he is finally outside again. He tells the Lord that being outside doesn't feel normal to him. The Lord, his back turned, reaches a hand toward the imposing gate. A young man with white hair stands in the dim light, holding a large hatchet with a questioning look. His eyes suddenly widen with a sharp, prickling awareness of an unseen presence. Whipping his head around, he turns to face the source of the unsettling feeling. Alarm flashes across his face as he confirms the imminent danger he sensed. From the gloom, a gaunt, snarling wolf with unnaturally glowing eyes appears. He identifies the creatures as wolves, wondering if they are undead corpses like him. He sees his hooded master standing calmly among the prowling wolf pack near a gate. A grim understanding settles in. He knows escaping this place will require a meticulous plan. He feels a wave of despair, realizing he could never win a game of cat and mouse. A wolf leaps at the ornate gate, only to be thrown back by an invisible magical barrier. Beyond the fence, countless pairs of menacing, glowing eyes stare back from the dark forest. Trapped and surrounded, he desperately questions what he should do in this hopeless situation. The imposing hooded Lord turns to face him, the wolves parting at his feet. A portion of the Lord's scarred face is visible, his expression cold and unreadable. Beckoning him forward, the Lord addresses the young man by the name End. His master declares that End will now demonstrate his power, shocking the boy. End stares back, his face a mask of utter shock and disbelief at the command. In a sudden, brutal display, one wolf viciously attacks another, spraying blood into the air. The Lord observes the savage act with a cold, unwavering, and intense gaze. Standing over the dead wolf, the Lord is a picture of absolute necromantic power. End grimly notes that this is the 5th time he has witnessed such a display. His master steps nonchalantly past the mangled corpse of the freshly killed wolf. He casually remarks that they are now short on night wolves but seems unconcerned. Deciding to ignore the loss, he commands them to proceed deeper into the forest. End questions if this gruesome demonstration was the true objective of their excursion. His thoughts reveal the wolves have been constantly fighting off swarms of other animals. He obediently follows his master and the undead wolves into the dense, dark woods. A close-up shows one of the wolves, its body a testament to its unnatural state. The undead wolves stand guard, their forms silhouetted against the forbidding trees. The bare feet of N tread carefully through the undergrowth of the dangerous forest. He observes the creatures, correctly deducing that they are incapable of feeling pain. He watches a wolf with a horribly shattered jaw continue to stand guard, unfazed. End understands with certainty that the wolves are not acting out of loyalty. A memory of an old illuminated book describes the evil nature of necromancers. The ancient tome depicts them as shadowy, despised beings with monstrous clawed hands. Having witnessed the Lord's power firsthand, N now understands why it is so feared. His bare foot touches the ground as he contemplates the nature of this dark magic. He realizes that this power is a sacrilegious perversion of the natural order. From the dark trees, a group of monstrous apes with glowing eyes watches them. One of the powerful apes lets out a vicious roar, preparing to launch an attack. The snarling night wolves form a protective, growling perimeter around their party. Standing amidst the snarling beasts, N comes to a terrifying, chilling realization. He understands that he will soon share the same grim fate as these pitiful wolves. His gaze is lost in the darkness, contemplating his seemingly inevitable, soulless future. Despite the horror of his situation, a new thought begins to form in his mind. He assesses the forest, concluding it is far more dangerous than he ever imagined. He questions why the Lord brought him here and still hasn't given him any commands. He feels a strange gratitude for the chance to organize his thoughts about his body. He notes that while he feels fatigue, he cannot perceive a limit to his stamina. Furthermore, he realizes all of his senses are now far sharper than they were before. Concentrating, he discovers he can sense the presence of other beasts in the forest. He stands behind his master, his newly heightened senses on high alert for any threats. Just as he thinks this, a massive, powerful bear emerges from the undergrowth. The Lord smirks, noting that his wolves would have easily handled this bear. He seems to consider the situation, focusing on the single bear before them. Turning to N, the Lord issues a simple, direct order: he must fight the beast. The command crashes down on N, his face showing his utter paralyzing shock. He can only manage a single sound of disbelief, his mind reeling from the order. His thoughts repeat the Lord's command, unable to process the directive to fight. The reality of the situation sinks in as he questions if he was truly the target. He grips the heavy hatchet, his entire body trembling with fear and apprehension. His hand tightens around the weapon, the metal gleaming in the dim forest light. He admits to himself this was a possibility he had naturally tried not to think about. His mind floods with a litany of his inadequacies, starting with his own weakness. He looks at the massive, hulking form of the bear, a creature of immense power. He recalls his past life, acknowledging he has never even been in an argument. The bear's single good eye glares at him, a symbol of its untamed, natural fury. He knows his body is untrained, and he has absolutely no idea how to fight. He concludes that a worthless human like him could never defeat such a blessed beast. His face is a mask of despair as he accepts the utter impossibility of the task. Taking an involuntary step back, he surrenders to the thought that it is impossible. The Lord looms over him, asking what's wrong before stating it is a command. N looks up, his face pale with exertion and the shock of the confrontation. The Lord's face hardens into a cruel mask as he orders N to fight with all his might. The final chilling command is given with absolute authority: he must kill the beast. An unseen force shoves N forward, propelling him into sudden, violent action. His expression shifts from pure fear to a mask of grim, focused determination. He runs through the dark forest, a small figure charging toward the massive bear. The bear, its left eye scarred over, plods forward with heavy, deliberate steps. N launches himself into the air, his bare foot leaving the forest floor. Clutching his massive sword, he becomes an arc of fury descending upon the beast. His heavy blade slices deep into the bear's shoulder, drawing a spray of dark blood. The bear lets out a furious, deafening roar of pain and rage from the impact. In the same chaotic moment, blood splatters across N's face from the exchange. The struggle becomes a close-quarters brawl, and N stumbles backward, completely overwhelmed. Gasping for breath, his face and tunic are now covered in his and the bear's blood. He falls to the ground, his body enduring the bear's savage, relentless mauling. His face is turned to the sky, blood staining his features in pure agony. The bear sinks its teeth deep into his shoulder, the impact echoing through the panels. Blood pours from a fresh wound on his face from the bear's vicious attack. In a desperate counter, he drives his bare hand directly into the bear's good eye. The beast recoils, roaring in pain and blindness from the sudden, savage blow. Lying on his back on the forest floor, he continues to fight with grim determination. He presses his advantage, his expression a mask of wild, adrenaline-fueled survival. He clambers onto the wounded, thrashing bear, straddling its back to continue the attack. He raises his blade repeatedly, plunging it deep into the creature's neck and spine. Each blow is punctuated by a visceral sound, emphasizing the frenzied, desperate attack. His face is lost in the bloody work of killing, his eyes wide and unfocused. In the midst of the violent frenzy, a moment of chilling clarity strikes him. He realizes with stark horror that at that instant he was truly a monster. In the midst of a bloody frenzy, the boy straddles the bear's back. He realizes, with chilling clarity, that he has definitely become a monster. With a final brutal swing, his massive cleaver decapitates the great beast. The Lord watches the gruesome display, his expression impassive and almost satisfied. A close-up reveals his cold, analytical gaze, taking in the aftermath of the kill. For a moment, the headless corpse of the bear remains standing, gushing blood. Dark fluid continues to pour from the bear's severed neck as it collapses. Covered in blood, the boy sits atop the carcass with an exhausted smile. A berserker rage takes hold and he begins hacking mindlessly at the dead creature. His blade strikes the carcass again and again with frenzied, violent force. The Lord's voice cuts in, remarking that the beast is already dying. He issues a sharp, final command for the boy to stop his attack. Later, under the full moon, En sits wearily atop the dead bear. His face, splattered with blood, is a mask of weary, hard-won victory. He rests his large, bloody sword on the carcass beside him, catching his breath. Looking down, he examines his own blood-stained hands in disbelief. En mutters to himself, acknowledging the terrible, bloodied state he is in. He reflects with a hint of shock that he somehow ended up winning the fight. The Lord appears, remarking that this was all En could manage to do. He continues, noting that this performance was expected from a body dead from disease. En retorts that it's a cruel thing to say after forcing him to fight. The Lord begins a dark incantation, summoning a powerful force from hell. He commands negative energy to flow into the living corpse before him. A vortex of dark magic, force reverse, envelops En, healing his wounds. The shadowy tendrils of the spell course through his battered body, mending him. En realizes with awe that his master can perform difficult healing magic. The Lord, having anticipated this, decides it's time to find the next opponent. He commands En to follow, solidifying the boy's belief that he is no ordinary man. En recalls that in the end, he was pitted against 5 fearsome beasts that day. After the brutal fighting, he is taken to a dark, damp stone cellar. A heavy door slams shut, sealing him inside what will be his new quarters. He stands alone in the stark room, still dripping wet onto the stone floor. He thinks about how his blood-caked body was unceremoniously doused with water. He laments being kept in a cellar, wishing for the simple comfort of a shower. With a sigh of resignation, he begins to analyze his new situation. He catalogs his new condition: no fatigue, no pain, and perfect dark vision. His thoughts turn to his next priority, assessing the Lord's own combat ability. He resolves that verifying his master's power is his most important task right now. His determined gaze falls upon the heavy iron bolt on his cell door. With quiet resolve, he decides to test the lock on the door. He reaches out and firmly grips the cold, heavy metal latch. With a grunt of effort, he slides the massive bolt open with his hand. The heavy door creaks open, revealing the dark corridor beyond his cell. Standing in the open doorway, he processes a profound realization. He confirms to himself that it is just as he had suspected. He remembers the moment the Lord left him alone in the cell. The Lord gave no command to stay, not anticipating any possibility of escape. He feels truly lucky that he didn't try to speak or show independent thought. He understands that his master does not know that he is self-aware. His silent obedience made the Lord believe he was commanding a mindless puppet. This critical gap in understanding presents itself as a golden opportunity. He knows the Lord would have issued a binding command if he knew the truth. Therefore, he must move with absolute stealth to remain undetected. He carefully considers his options, whether to oppose the Lord or not. He concludes that it is always best to have more power and options available. In a room filled with other bodies, he sits and begins his secret research. He opens a book, his eyes falling on a passage stating the undead are a curse. The text explains that souls tainted by necromancers are eternal prisoners of pain. He lets out a small, thoughtful sound, processing this grim information. He wonders what hell he suffered in life to make this a preferable fate. Holding a book, he thinks that the one thing he cannot stand is his will being taken. He scoffs, believing that someone fortunate could never understand his agony. With a forceful gesture of frustration, he slams the book shut. An image of a monstrous, snarling wolf flashes, a symbol of his inner rage. A memory surfaces of him standing in a moonlit clearing, holding a shovel. The Lord appears before him, asking if he has managed to get stronger. N remains silent, thinking to himself that he surely has. He questions why he is getting stronger, since his body should be dead. The Lord notes he is still a fleshman, but has gathered a fair number of deaths. End is bewildered by the foreign concepts of gathered deaths and ghoul. The Lord turns and walks away, leaving him to ponder these strange words. Back in the present, End decides it is the right time to take action. He moves silently down a long hall patrolled by two animated skeletons. His bare feet pad quietly across the cold tiled stone floor. He believes the Lord should be sleeping, making this the perfect opportunity. Sneaking into a vast two-story library, his focus is absolute. He stops short, his serious demeanor momentarily breaking in the doorway. His eyes sparkle with childlike wonder at the sight of the towering bookshelves. He gathers a stack of books, carefully sneaking past a skeleton guard. Finding a quiet corner, he sits down with his large pile of tomes. He reflects that books were his only friends when he was alive. He discovers with some frustration that many books are in a language he can't read. He wonders if they are grimoires but continues his search regardless. He pulls out a tome titled Undead Encyclopedia, glad he can finally read one. He opens the book and immediately finds the definition of a fleshman. The text explains a fleshman grows by gathering negative energy from the recently dead. He realizes this must be what the Lord meant by stage transformation. He concludes that the Lord wants him to become a more powerful undead. He turns the page, his eyes widening as he reads about the next stage, the ghoul. He reads that the curse of the undead is permanent, even if the caster dies. He lets out a small sound of shock at this grim, unchangeable revelation. Suddenly, he hears the soft patter of footsteps approaching him. He looks up from his book, his eyes wide with sudden alarm. In a swift, silent motion, he snatches his book and dives for cover. He hides behind a large stone sarcophagus, pressing himself flat against it. The hem of the Lord's dark robe passes by his hiding spot. His master's bare feet step into view, completely oblivious to his presence. Once safe, he peeks out and sees a dark-haired girl cleaning nearby. She holds a single candle, its light illuminating the dark hall as she works. He recognizes her as Rue, another of the Lord's long-suffering servants. His thoughts focus on a young woman, identifying her as Rue, another living being in the estate. She is shown wearing a heavy collar, a clear sign of her status as a slave to the Lord. He understands the collar punishes defiance, but cannot control her free will. Watching her, he concludes she is not a truly faithful servant to their master. His internal monologue confirms, however, that she is not an ally of his either. He decides that while she may not be harmful, it is still best to remain cautious. Rue listlessly scrubs a stone slab with a cloth, her movements mechanical and tired. He observes her sloppy cleaning, judging it to be completely ineffective in the dark hall. With a single candle for light, she moves toward a tall cabinet. A glint in his eye reveals an idea forming as he continues to watch her. Her hand carelessly brushes against a pile of bones resting on a sarcophagus. The small sound of surprise escapes her as she fumbles. She stands over the stone slab, where a corpse lies undisturbed. He thinks to himself that this very spot would be a perfect hiding place in the future. A sudden clattering sound makes his eye widen in alarm. Rue has accidentally knocked a skull from its resting place onto the floor. Her expression shifts to one of dawning horror as she realizes her mistake. The young man is also shocked by the sudden turn of events. Panic floods Rue's face, her hands flying to her mouth in fear. Her mind races, terrified that she is going to be scolded by her master. Overwhelmed by fear, she turns and flees the room without a second thought. He is left alone in the silent chamber with the fallen skull. Looking down at the skull, a strange and unfamiliar sensation begins to stir within him. A close-up on his eye reveals his internal thought. Lately, he has been feeling hungry. As he steps towards the skull, a rational part of his mind warns him not to. He reaches for the skull, recognizing this powerful urge as his stage transformation. Licking his lips with a sinister look, he knows defiling the corpse will prove he is a ghoul. An encyclopedia entry appears, defining the ghoul as the next stage of undead. As a ghoul, he is shown with inhuman agility, scaling the estate's spiked gate. The text explains a ghoul possesses infant-level intelligence, unlike a mindless fleshman. He perches atop the gate, the text noting a ghoul's intense hatred for sunlight. The deep shadows of trees symbolize the creature's preference for darkness. A clawed hand reaches into the undergrowth, illustrating that it primarily acts at night. He moves with supernatural speed, sprinting through the dense forest. A large bear is seen in the distance as the text mentions the ghoul's special skills. The bear turns, its gaze fixed on the approaching undead predator. His hands transform, growing long, sharp claws, a skill the book calls sharp claws. He attacks the bear, the text explaining his claws are far sharper than any ordinary blade. His claws tear through flesh and bone in a visceral spray of black blood. Standing over the bear's carcass, he holds a piece of its bloody flesh. His mouth opens wide, fangs bared, ready to consume the raw meat. The book's text confirms ghouls use their claws to cut up and devour corpses. After the bloody frenzy, he clutches his head, the word hunger echoing in his mind. He lets out a silent, agonized scream, his face splattered with gore. He recognizes hunger as a human emotion, a painful reminder of his lost humanity. The scene shifts to a quiet view of the estate's overgrown grounds at night. A closer view highlights the cold, cracked stone architecture of the mansion. Inside, he lies motionless on a slab, with the Lord and Rue looking down on him. The Lord's expression is one of clear annoyance and impatience with the situation. He speaks, frustrated that the young man still has not transformed. The young man lies still, his eyes open, hearing his master's disappointment. The Lord turns his sharp gaze to Rue, commanding her to bring him a knife. Rue scurries away to fetch the weapon, her movements hurried and fearful. She returns, hesitantly offering the knife to her imposing master. The Lord snatches the knife from her trembling hand with a swift, angry motion. He berates her for being too slow, contemptuously calling her a piece of trash. Rue watches in horror as the Lord turns his attention back to the young man. The Lord holds the knife over him, his face a mask of cruel intent. The young man watches the descending blade with a blank, unreadable expression. The sharp tip of the dagger presses into the flesh of his shoulder. With a sudden thrust, the blade sinks deep into his body. He lets out a soft, involuntary gasp of pain from the fresh wound. A crack spiders across the stone slab as he thinks about living corpses regaining their desires. His mind swirls with the thought that deeper undead can regain pain and intellect. The Lord presses the dagger, stating this pain is nothing compared to his past suffering. The Lord's scarred face is shown in a menacing, shadowy close-up. He dismisses the young man, concluding that he is still just a fleshman after all. The Lord then orders Rue to watch the wound and report any changes. Rue stammers an affirmative, her voice trembling with fear. The Lord violently grabs the young man's face, demanding he make some kind of sound. He can only manage a pained grunt and a series of weak coughs. Rue kneels on the floor, watching the brutal display with wide, terrified eyes. The Lord dismisses him, curtly ordering him back to his usual spot. He walks past the still kneeling Rue, his posture rigid as he leaves the room. He exits the chamber, the sound of his departure echoing in the hall. Once alone in the corridor, his expression changes, acknowledging the order with sharp cunning. He realizes his master was testing him for regenerative abilities. He walks down the corridor, thinking sadly that his master's plan has a flaw. A sinister smirk appears on his face as he concludes that his master is too naive. He plunges his own claw-like fingers deep into the wound on his shoulder. His face contorts in a mask of extreme, self-inflicted agony. Despite the immense pain, he lets out a soft, pained laugh. He thinks to himself how hilarious it is that he is hurting himself this way. He stands rationalizing that this horrific act is a necessary part of his plan. He knows that if he is going to create an opening, he must be willing to do anything. A vial of liquid is poured onto the wound, which sizzles and smokes on contact. His eyes widen in alarm as he realizes he is no longer alone. Rue stands in the doorway, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. He freezes, his bloody finger still near his mouth, caught in his monstrous act. The two stare at each other, his terrible secret revealed in a moment of shock. Panic grips him as the realization that he has been seen crashes down on him. Rue takes a step back, her bare foot pivoting on the cold stone floor. She breaks into a desperate sprint down the corridor, fleeing the horrific sight. He instinctively calls out for her to wait, his clawed hand outstretched in a futile gesture. He catches himself, realizing the utter futility of trying to chase her. His mind races, questioning what he could possibly achieve by pursuing her. He understands the worst-case scenario would be the Lord seeing him chase after her. He looks at his monstrous clawed hand, a stark reminder of what he has become. He lowers his hand, making a cold, calculated decision based on logic. He resolves not to act, as the Lord has not ordered him to do such a thing. With cold, hard logic, En concludes he does not need to chase her. An instant later, a powerful backhand strike sends Ru flying through the air. The imposing hooded lord appears, his face a mask of cold fury. Landing hard on the stone floor, Ru is left stunned and whimpering. Her crumpled form lies at the feet of the Lord as En watches. From a distance, En observes the scene with a neutral, unreadable expression. The Lord addresses the fallen girl by name, his voice dripping with menace. He looms over her, accusing her of plotting against him with his question. Grabbing her chin, he reminds her of his explicit order to report any changes. His eyes narrow as he states he never gave her permission to lie to him. With a firm grip, he forces her head to turn toward En. Their faces are close as she is made to confront En directly. The Lord then commands En to raise his arm and show the wound clearly. En's impassive face reveals nothing as he prepares to obey the order. He silently raises his gloved arm, displaying the wound on his shoulder. Turning back to Ru, the Lord demands to know what she said about it. Panicked, Ru stammers that En had harmed himself on his own accord. Her words are met with a low, menacing chuckle from the Lord. He relays Ru's accusation to En, demanding to know if it is true. The Lord's expression is one of intense, scrutinizing inquiry. Clenching his gloved fist, En remains completely and utterly silent. Ru's face contorts in panic, realizing her plea is not being believed. In a desperate cry, she calls out to her master for help. Pointing a trembling finger, she insists that En is the one who is lying. The Lord grabs Ru by the hair, his expression twisting into a sadistic grin. He begins to explain a core tenet of his necromantic power to her. A dawning, terrible understanding floods Ru's eyes with horror. He reveals the unbreakable bond between an undead and its creator. With a terrifying smile, he declares that the undead swear absolute obedience. Ru's eye reflects her sheer terror at this inescapable truth. The Lord then unleashes a torrent of brutal violence upon the girl. He viciously stomps her into the cold, unforgiving stone floor. From his position, En watches the cruel punishment without flinching. A thought passes through his mind, confirming this was his exact expectation. His internal monologue reveals his self-perception as the Lord's loyal fleshman. He rationalizes his inaction as a perfect execution of his given orders. His entire plan hinged on the Lord's absolute confidence in his necromancy. The Lord sneers down at Ru, questioning her foolish attempt at deception. Ru weeps, her face bruised and bloody from the merciless assault. Kneeling over her, the Lord threatens her with an even worse fate. He promises to shred her flesh and engrave eternal pain on her soul. With the lesson taught, the imposing Lord stands, ready to depart. He turns to En, finally giving him permission to lower his arm. The Lord is seen holding some sort of strange, ribbon-like magical artifact. He turns away from En, leaving him alone in the hall with Ru. As he leaves, he callously reminds Ru of her own worthlessness to him. The heavy door slams shut, leaving En standing over Ru's crumpled form. En coolly observes that Ru will not be getting another chance. His expression is complex as he processes the outcome of his gamble. He looks at her fallen form, noting their different positions in this hierarchy. He decides that as her colleague, he has a duty to help her now. Stretching his arms, En prepares to enact the next part of his plan. He moves forward and kneels down beside the terrified, weeping girl. Ru looks up at him, her face a mask of utter confusion and fear. A bright, cheerful smile spreads across En's face as he greets her. Kneeling before her, he begins to express his sincere gratitude. He thanks her, revealing her actions saved him from worrying about his wound. Ru stares, her mind reeling from this monstrous and shocking revelation. En calmly plucks a piece of his own flesh from his still open shoulder. With a grotesque casualness, he places the piece of himself into his mouth. A sinister, triumphant smile plays on his lips as he begins to chew. Ru can only watch, paralyzed by the horrific and unbelievable display. En tells her that any attempt to expose him now is completely futile. He assures her that the Lord will never believe anything she says. The girl's face is a mask of pure, uncomprehending horror. With startling speed, En grabs Ru by the arm, stopping her. He holds her wrist firmly, halting her mid-action with a sharp tug. His expression is unreadable as he holds her still in the corridor. His internal monologue reveals a deeper, more complex plan is in motion. He knows Ru's words have planted insidious thorns of doubt in the Lord's heart. This suspicion, he predicts, will continue to fester and grow over time. He acknowledges that it is only a matter of time until he is exposed. Knowing Rue will not give up, he decides to use the situation. He must seize this opportunity to rebel before his secrets are revealed. His thoughts turn to another crucial factor in his burgeoning plan. An armored leg steps carefully through a field of tall grass. A close-up reveals the ornate hilt of a sword at the person's side. He considers this unknown individual to be one more variable in his scheme. The figure, a woman with short hair, stands with her back to the viewer. This person is revealed to be a young woman with distinctive cross-shaped earrings. Her pensive expression suggests she has the power to influence upcoming events. Her words have already begun to cause ripples of consequence elsewhere. The scene shifts to a lavishly decorated room with an ornate closed door. An unseen person expresses their disbelief at what they have just been told. Back in the Lord's Hall, the news of the chivalric order's arrival is delivered. A smuggler named Hack confirms they will soon arrive in Engay town. The Lord reacts with visible shock, his face contorting in surprise. N's eyes widen in alarm at the mention of the legendary order. The narration describes them as the world's most powerful and fabled army. They are heroes from fairy tales who slay darkness with swords of light. A flashback shows N as a small child, idolizing these very heroes. He reflects on the unbelievable timing of this world-altering information. N questions Hack, who scoffs at the idea his information could be wrong. Hack warns that the Order has an uncanny ability to find their targets. The Lord sees, wondering if they chased him to this remote place. He laments that his grand research was only a few years from completion. He furiously vows to kill the bloody hounds and enslave their souls. N recalls the epic picture books he read in his past life. He realizes the warring relationship between necromancers and the Order was real. This new understanding leads him to a single terrifying conclusion. A young man reflects that as an undead corpse, he would naturally be considered an enemy. He visualizes the three powerful factions now in play: himself, the Lord, and the chivalric Order of Demise. With a look of sheer terror, he concludes that he is obviously the weakest among the three. His expression hardens as he laments that the force now influencing his fate is the chivalric Order. Wanting to escape, he identifies the Lord's complete sovereignty over him as the main obstacle. He recalls his earlier investigation, which revealed the Lord's power is more than just absolute command. His research showed the Lord can know his location and even cast spells on him from afar. This means he has no freedom while the Lord is alive, who curses his own bad luck nearby. Frustration etches itself onto the young man's face. He never wished for any of this. The smuggler Hack chuckles, observing that the Lord cannot avoid being dragged into the coming war. The Lord suddenly stops Hack, telling him to wait before he flees the estate. Before Hack departs, the Lord announces he has a request to ask of him. The Lord's clawed hand is shown carefully writing a note with a quill pen. Frustrated, the young man watches, unable to read the strange script on the note. His eyes narrow with suspicion as he wonders what his master could possibly want. Hack takes the note from the Lord, his eyes scanning the words in silence. He gives a short nod, confirming that he understands the Lord's request. With his task accepted, the smuggler turns and begins to walk away. A close-up shows Hack glancing back over his shoulder one last time. As Hack departs down the hall, the Lord begins to speak his thoughts aloud. He muses that he is surprised the young man's diseased corpse has survived for so long. He concludes that the bodies of nobles must simply be of a different, higher caliber. The young man's hand clenches into a fist as he internally refutes this, crediting his survival to his will to live. His thoughts turn inward as he begins to ponder a new, troubling idea. He starts to question if his own pure emotions could be the cause of an impossible event. He wonders if his innocent desire to live forced his master to grant him his former memories. A memory surfaces of the Lord asking Hack if he could procure more noble bodies. The Lord specifies that he is interested in the one Hack recently got his hands on. A wave of shock washes over the young man as he realizes they meant his own original corpse. In his memory, Hack reminds his client of their promise to never discuss a corpse's origins. Hack recalls that the body in question belonged to someone who had been bedridden for a long time. The Lord curtly ends the conversation, dismissing the topic as irrelevant. The smuggler bows his head slightly before taking his leave from the room. Alone again, the Lord mutters that despite everything, his grand plan is not yet complete. Leaning on his staff, he resigns himself to the situation, seeing no other choice. He then orders N to come with him back to the morgue to check on the other corpses. The young man's expression is stoic and unreadable as he absorbs the command. His feet echo on the stone floor as he follows his master down a dark corridor. He quietly acknowledges the order, his mind racing with the new information. He calmly processes the truth. His corpse was indeed sold off after his death. A close-up on his profile reveals his complex reaction to this betrayal. He realizes with some surprise that he feels neither shock nor bitterness about the matter. A memory surfaces of his family paying for his nursing, though they never visited him. He rationalizes that even if they didn't care for him deeply, their actions were for his sake. He decides there is no reason to speak to Hack about his family selling his body. After all, he reasons, it was because of that very transaction that he got a second chance to live. As he follows the Lord towards a large door, his thoughts become focused and sharp. His expression hardens with resolve. He must choose the path that guarantees his survival. He weighs his two grim options: join the Lord against the knights or kill him and escape. Peeking from behind a wall, he believes he has found a single viable way to act. Just as he thinks there is a way to kill the Lord, he is startled by a sudden gasp. The slave girl Rue runs in, excitedly telling her master she has found proof that her words were correct. The Lord turns to her, his expression impassive and silent as she speaks. Rue points towards a corner, announcing with glee that the evidence is over there. She pulls open a filing cabinet drawer, revealing it to be filled with books. From the side, the young man's eyes widen in alarm as he sees his secret exposed. Rue turns to the Lord, eagerly asking what he thinks of her discovery. She explains that there should have never been any books in this particular room. Triumphantly, she points at the young man, accusing him of bringing the books from the library. She prepares to deliver her final, damning accusation against him to their master. The Lord's expression finally shifts, his face twisting into a mask of cold fury. He turns the accusation back on her, demanding to know where her proof is that she didn't bring them. Rue's face freezes, her triumphant smile replaced by one of pure, uncomprehending shock. The Lord lunges, grabbing her tunic and calling her an incorrigible girl for her insolence. He lifts her from the ground, reminding her that he has already given her a warning. He threatens that the next time she reports a falsehood, he will not be so lenient. Sobbing, Rue stammers apologies, but the Lord is completely unmoved by her pleas. He muses that he should have used a spell to force absolute obedience on her, just like with his undead. As Rue continues to cry and beg for forgiveness, he coldly tells her that it's enough. He raises his hand, informing her that she will be reborn, but without her memories. A glowing magical symbol appears as he begins to chant the sinister incantation. The young man watches in frozen horror, the terrible magic reflected in his wide eye. He remains perfectly still as the Lord prepares to erase Rue's mind forever. Suddenly, a wide, manic, and unnerving grin spreads across the young man's face. Rue stares up at him from the floor, her eyes wide with tear-streaked terror. His mouth opens as he begins to speak a single chilling phrase. He mouths a thank you to her, his sharp-nailed hand hovering menacingly. His monstrous, claw-like hand moves threateningly close to her horrified eye. In a shocking display of violence, his hand punches clean through the Lord's head from behind. A brief flashback shows the young man thinking that the time has finally come. He reveals his plan. He needed to create a situation where the Lord could not command him. His head is bowed in thought, finalizing the last details of his deadly scheme. His sinister grin and clawed hands are shown as he mentally thanks Rue for her part. The full scene reveals his assassination of the Lord as Rue watches in utter horror. Rue's face is a mask of pure shock, splattered with the Lord's black essence. The Lord's head is shown completely destroyed, his long white hair matted with gore. The young man's eye is wide with a manic, triumphant glee at his success. He exults in his victory, declaring that he has killed the Lord and is finally free. Wrenching his hand from the corpse, he immediately plans his escape from the forest. He holds up his blood-soaked hand, intending to survive by hunting beasts in the wild. His clawed hand drips with blood as he decides to find a new forest to inhabit. His triumphant expression suddenly vanishes, replaced by one of utter confusion. He looks down, stammering in disbelief at his new and impossible surroundings. The world seems to blur around him as he questions what is happening. Looking down, he is completely bewildered by the meaning of this sudden shift in reality. His eyes are wide with confusion as he tries to comprehend his impossible situation. His face contorts into a mask of pure, unadulterated terror and disbelief. Before him stands the Lord, completely unharmed and impossibly imposing. The young man's eye reflects his utter shock at this impossible resurrection. He stammers incoherently, certain that he had just killed his master moments before. A voice expresses disbelief, questioning if its creation has truly gained intellect. The Lord declares his fascination with the development as N stares in terror. With a desperate cry, N lunges forward, his hand a blur of motion. His clawed fist punches clean through the Lord's chest with brutal force. The impaled Lord lets out a soft, unimpressed sound, seemingly unharmed. He remains utterly still, showing no reaction to the grievous wound. His master calmly clarifies that impaling his head wasn't why he survived. The Lord calls En smart, while the boy stares back in horrified disbelief. He praises En's cunning for hiding his intellect and waiting for this moment. En understands with dawning horror the true nature of a necromancer. He sees his master not as a man, but as an overwhelming, monstrous entity. With a grunt, En recoils, his bloody hand dripping with dark fluid. His hand trembles, black liquid splattering from his sharp fingertips. En stares at his own hand, shocked by what he has just done. He desperately wonders how to kill a human who can survive such injuries. The realization hits that he can neither escape nor defend himself anymore. A frantic resolve takes hold in his eyes as a new plan forms. He decides he must simply keep killing his master until he finally dies. In a furious barrage, he pummels the unmoving figure before him. The Lord finally speaks, his voice calm as he orders him to stop. With effortless grace, his master catches En's fist, halting the assault. En grits his teeth in frustration, his attack rendered useless. A smug expression crosses the Lord's face as he observes his creation. He states that while En is smart, he is ignorant of true magic. The Lord reveals En's failure was assuming he only possessed one life. En questions what his master could possibly mean by that statement. The Lord stands poised, ready to reveal the secret of his immortality. A cracked sphere materializes in his hand as En repeats his question. He explains that he has split his life into 120 separate parts. En looks on, his face a mask of utter shock and disbelief. The sphere shatters, a symbol of the two lives En managed to take. The Lord clarifies that to kill him, all 120 parts must be destroyed instantly. He adds that this is a common practice among first-class necromancers. The number 120 lives echoes in En's mind with shocking finality. He feels the crushing unfairness of the situation, his hope dwindling. His gloved hand clenches as he realizes his rebellion was always doomed. Covering his face, En grapples with the impossible odds now before him. The Lord muses that this means En can no longer target him. He considers what to do with his rebellious creation from this point on. With a raised hand, he issues a new, absolute command forbidding any aggression. En understands with a jolt that his fate has been sealed by this order. He realizes with grim certainty that his master has no intention of killing him. A cold glint of determination appears in his eye as a new vow forms. The Lord senses this unwavering jet-black will and seems impressed by it. With arms spread wide, he declares En is the undead Lord he desires. En's gaze remains fixed, processing this new, ominous title. The Lord proclaims En will become his strength, regardless of his intentions. Bowing his head in submission, En agrees to obey and asks to be freed. The Lord permits him to move, seemingly satisfied with his compliance. En remains bowed for a moment, his thoughts hidden from his master. He tests his new bonds, asking his master to make it in order once more. The Lord repeats his command, and En feels control return to his limbs. He stands before the towering figure, a subordinate once again. A sharp, calculating look appears on his face as he turns away slightly. The Lord smirks, amused by the defiance he can still sense in his creation. En internally tells his master to laugh all he wants for now. He vows that as long as he gets the last laugh, he will be satisfied. His thoughts drift to a secret advantage he still possesses. He reveals to himself that he still has a trump card to play. The scene shifts to a bustling town square, full of life and activity. People and horses move through the lively, crowded streets. A vendor at a market stall serves a customer, a picture of normalcy. An ornate sign hangs over the street, indicating a place of business. En's eyes sparkle with wonder, taking in the town with childlike glee. He cheerfully suggests to his companion Rue that they explore the town. Rue looks back at him with a flat, unimpressed expression. She reminds him their master ordered them to hurry back after their business, and playfully suggests they can sidetrack if they both tell the same story. Rue sternly reiterates that his duty is to protect her. En is taken aback by her serious and direct reminder of his mission. He sighs, his brief moment of excitement fading into resignation. A few days have passed since his failed rebellion and new assignment. A transition shows the night sky, hinting at a change in plans. A flashback begins with En, still blood-spattered, sitting in the woods. The Lord gives him his new orders to guard Rue and go to Engate. En listens, still recovering from the ordeal of his failed assassination. The Lord explains the town is dangerous, but he has prepared equipment for him. He presents a cloak and a shining amulet to mask En's undead nature. En looks at the items, questioning what they are for. The Lord explains the Cloak of Endless Night and the Shadow Amulet. He adds that as a vampire, En can survive some daylight, but to be careful. En, while grateful, questions why he must take such a risk. His master explains that he must retrieve an item requested from Hack. He reveals that this item is his trump card against their enemies. En quietly acknowledges the command, understanding the mission's importance. The Lord dismisses his worries with a casual wave of his hand. He assures En his countermeasures are perfect and scouts have been sent. En agrees, though his expression remains somber and serious. With cold resolve, he vows that they will surely kill their enemies. The scene transitions to the bright daytime sky above the town. Walking through the streets, En confirms his earlier vow was not a lie. He cannot let anyone kill him, even the heroes he once admired. His gaze hardens as he concludes that anyone trying to kill him is an enemy. He walks through the bustling crowd, his companion Rue following behind. He muses that, after so long in the dark, it's okay to have some fun. Rue nudges him playfully, her demeanor completely changed. She points out that no one is watching, so they won't be found out. She eagerly tries to get his attention, her voice a playful whisper. She calls him a monster for tempting her, threatening to tell their master. En smiles, dismissing her threat as utterly pointless. The hooded young man tells his companion Rue that reporting him is pointless as the Lord already expects his actions. Rue's face contorts in frustration, realizing the grim truth in his words. He then makes a startling proposal, offering to escort her to town after the Lord's incidental death. With a casual finger gesture, he asks how his dangerous proposition sounds to her. In response, Rue's hand clenches the fabric of her simple tunic in a gesture of pure fear. Her mouth twists into a grimace of terror and absolute denial. She insists with panicked certainty that their master is a terrifying man who will never die. The young man calmly states that he has witnessed countless people have the tables turned on them. He continues his grim prediction, clarifying who the ones truly fated to die are. With a cold, serious expression, he reveals that it is them, he and Rue, who are destined to perish. He quietly affirms his fatalistic view, his eyes shadowed by his hood. He observes her, noting that her heart has already been completely shattered by her life of suffering. With a faint smile, he remarks that her tendency to just go with the flow is actually quite scary. Rue looks down, her expression one of utter dejection and hopelessness. He concludes that for her, even death is no longer a path to salvation. The group continues walking through a narrow stone-paved street in the bustling town. His gaze lingers for a moment on the rough, unfriendly face of a man in the crowd. He glances back over his shoulder, a hint of caution in his expression. A faint, self-deprecating smile appears as he moves through the throng of people. His foot comes to an abrupt and sudden stop on the cobblestone street. He lets out a small, almost inaudible gasp of surprise at something he has seen. He laments to himself that he couldn't explore the town after all, his plans interrupted. Still, he holds on to the hope that he will get a chance if he can just keep surviving. His gaze is fixed on something shocking down the street, past the town's rooftops. His eyes widen in alarm and disbelief at the overwhelming sight before him. A round pumpkin-like object drops from his grasp, his body frozen in shock. His eyes reflect the brilliant, disorienting light that has captured his attention. The object hits the ground with a thud as Rue looks back at him, confused. She turns to him with a questioning expression, wondering about his sudden halt. His face is a mask of pure, unadulterated shock, his mouth slightly agape. A brilliant, holy light emanates from a group of people gathered further down the street. The source is revealed to be a party of knights in shining armor, radiating immense power. The sheer intensity of the light is overwhelming, blurring his vision. The hooded man is completely stunned, stammering incoherently at the sight. Rue, oblivious, asks what is wrong and tells him to pick up the item he dropped. He struggles to form words, completely transfixed by the appearance of the knights. He feels as if his very senses jumped in response to the powerful presence. Placing a hand on Rue's shoulder, he marvels at the incredible light he is witnessing. He urgently informs Rue that the chivalric order of demise is here. Rue is shocked by this sudden, dangerous revelation, her eyes wide with fear. He instructs her to keep walking and maintain an innocent look, his own gaze sharp. She turns away, a nervous sweat beading on her face as she tries to comply. As they walk, he begins to process the immense power he is witnessing. He concludes that the radiant power emanating from them is the embodiment of a miracle. A cold sweat breaks out as he realizes they are completely different from what he'd heard. He grips his amulet, understanding that he truly knew nothing about them. His expression is grim as he analyzes the threat level before him. He deduces the knights are likely third class, with one girl shining even brighter. His focus shifts to an elderly man, identifying him as the biggest problem. He knows with chilling certainty that this formidable man is a first-class knight. He feels an immense pressure, knowing he cannot get any closer to the powerful knight. He fears the first-class knight will quickly notice him if he gets any nearer. He laments that the world is truly unfair, facing such overwhelming power. His face is tense as he struggles to control his growing panic and fear. He grits his teeth, trying to bear the immense pressure emanating from the knights. The crushing realization hits him with full force. He cannot possibly beat them. His immediate instinct is to withdraw and get as far away from here as possible. He begins to turn, his eyes wide with the frantic urgency to escape the area. His escape is cut short as he finds his path suddenly and unexpectedly blocked. He is now face to face with a young blonde knight with concerned, watchful eyes. His own eyes widen in shock at being confronted so directly and suddenly. The knight Senri asks if he's okay, noting that he doesn't look well. He lets out a small, startled gasp, caught completely off guard by her proximity. Another knight observes that the hooded figure is visibly shivering. The male knight teases Senri for being so curious about the sickly stranger. He apologizes for Senri's bluntness, explaining that it's just her natural self. The hooded man remains silent, his mind racing to formulate a believable lie. The knight reassures Senri she has a promising future, as En continues to strategize. En believes he can deceive them as long as he avoids the powerful old man. He resolves to lie and walk by them unnoticed, a confident smirk on his face. He thanks them for their concern, insisting he is fine and simply recuperating. He explains that he was bedridden until recently and is just taking a walk outside. Senri's expression softens as she reveals she too was recently bedridden and understands. He is momentarily taken aback by this unexpected and empathetic connection. He quietly acknowledges her words, seeing a potential opening in her kindness. An idea strikes Senri, and she offers to use healing magic to help him. He politely but firmly refuses her offer, insisting that he is fine. A stern knight named Nabila intervenes, stating that they are in a rush. The hooded man is surprised by the sudden, authoritative interruption to their conversation. Nabila apologizes for stopping them, but explains they are searching for necromancers. He admits with some frustration that they have yet to find any leads in their search. The hooded man remains silent, his expression hidden as his heart pounds with fear. Nabila decides to be frank, his gaze sharpening with intense suspicion. He notes the man's face looks like an undead's, and that vampires are weak to light. He demands that the man remove his hood, as Senri gasps his name in protest. The group stands tensely as Nabila's aggressive demand hangs in the air. The young man slowly pulls back his hood, offering a disarming smile and a clever excuse. Nabila studies him for a moment, surprised by his seemingly normal appearance. Clicking his tongue in annoyance, Nabila reluctantly admits that he was wrong. Senri, mortified by her comrade's actions, begins to apologize profusely. Her face is a mask of embarrassment and genuine regret for the rude interruption. He graciously accepts her apology, stating that it is their job after all. As they part ways, Nabila gives a final, slightly ominous farewell. Later, the hooded man and Rue are in a quieter, more secluded part of town. His calm facade crumbles, replaced by a look of grim and serious intensity. He moves swiftly into a secluded alley, his intentions now deadly serious. He turns to Rue, telling her that he has something to ask of her. His eyes burn with desperate fire as he states he wants to make a deal. He blocks her path, reassuring her that his proposal will not conflict with her orders. Rue immediately refuses, insisting she must hurry back and report everything to their master. A hooded figure stands in a corridor as a single, sharp exclamation of "Monster!" shatters the silence. The hooded young man, End, tells the girl, Rue, that he understands her because he is a weakling too. He reveals he knows what she truly desires and offers to give it to her in exchange for her help. Rue looks up at him, her expression a mixture of shock and hesitation at his sudden proposition. End's face is now visible, a confident and almost predatory smile playing on his lips as he leans in. The young girl is visibly taken aback by the intensity of his offer and his demeanor. A close-up of her face reveals her complete and utter shock, her mind reeling from his words. End maintains his sly, knowing smile, certain that his manipulation of her desperation will succeed. Overwhelmed by the proposition, Rue stammers that his request is completely and utterly absurd. He reassures her with a gentle expression, promising that he will definitely fulfill his side of their bargain. The weight of her fear crushes her, and she begins to sob, repeating how terrifying their master is. She collapses in the corridor, her spirit seemingly broken by the monstrous proposal she has just heard. En's face is partially obscured as he contemplates his next move, his intricate plan now set in motion. His internal thoughts reveal that he has devised a high-risk, ultimate strategy for his own survival. He declares with chilling certainty that the winner will be neither the Lord nor the chivalric order of demise. The Lord clenches his fist, his shock and anger palpable upon learning a first-class knight has arrived. In his chamber, the Lord confronts End, demanding confirmation that he encountered the chivalric order. End, standing beside a nervous Rue, asks his master if he is familiar with this particular knight. The Lord slumps in his chair, admitting with frustration that they have been bitter adversaries for a long time. His face twists into a mask of pure fury, enraged that this destruction always gets in his way. End calmly questions their chances of winning against such a powerful and well-known enemy. The Lord's teeth are bared in a snarl of pure frustration and incandescent rage. He slams his fist down, furiously insisting to his subordinates that of course they will be victorious. End remains silent, his expression unreadable as he absorbs his master's volatile reaction. The Lord's hands tremble with anxiety, lamenting that their lack of time is a critical issue. He wishes for more time to gain power, but wonders if this confrontation is his final trial. End internally questions the ominous meaning of this supposed trial his master mentioned. The Lord looks back with grim determination, knowing he can no longer delay the inevitable fight. He expresses some regret over the timing, but believes they may still be able to succeed. He suddenly presents a massive, curved fang, startling End with its sheer size and sinister appearance. End's eyes widen in shock, his mind racing as he processes the sight of the huge fang. The Lord muses that there is a lack of hate in the material and that he will need one more. He mentions that he had a man named Hack prepare one fang, but it alone is not enough. The Lord turns his piercing gaze to End, asking for confirmation about the power he sensed from the knights. End affirms that the power was so overwhelming that it could have turned him to dust with a mere touch. The Lord covers his face with one hand, letting out a soft, sinister laugh of pure delight. His laughter escalates into a wild, echoing roar of manic ecstasy, filling the entire chamber. He declares that this is proof of the abyss End controls, the very caliber of an undead lord. With a look of crazed glee, he proclaims his grand ambition: he will make End the undead lord. End quietly questions his master's motives, wondering why he would grant him such immense power. He realizes the Lord is forcing him to hunt and grow stronger without granting him true intellect. He concludes that whatever this offer is, it is definitely not something that will benefit him. Nearby, Rue clasps her hands nervously, sensing the dangerous and dramatic shift in the atmosphere. End's expression becomes cold and calculating as he formulates his secret response to the Lord's plan. His gaze is sharp and focused, his mind already working on a counterplan to ensure his survival. He feigns compliance, thinking that he must decline and will instead need his own intensive training. A view of a town building is shown as End reflects on the next steps of his secret strategy. The sky over the town is dark and foreboding, mirroring the grim and dangerous situation. A skeleton knight stands guard outside, a visual reminder of the Lord's ever-present power. End stands under the full moon, recalling the Lord's urgent words about having no time to waste. His own face, splattered with blood from a previous battle, agrees that there is no time to waste. He and Rue walk through the busy streets of a nearby town, carrying out their clandestine mission. A gruff man in a wide-brimmed hat approaches End in a quiet, secluded alleyway. The man, likely the black marketeer Hack, agrees that they too have no time to waste. End discreetly passes a sealed letter to Rue, entrusting her with a critical part of his plan. His gaze is resolute and unyielding, confident in the eventual success of his intricate plans. Rue accepts the letter from End, her expression a mixture of fear and newfound determination. She looks up at him, her face showing the immense weight of the task she has just accepted. End holds another letter, vowing that anyone who dares to disturb his peace can simply perish. A large, half-timbered building stands under the sky, the stage for the coming conflict between factions. In a well-lit room, a knightly leader addresses his subordinates, asking for updates on their search. He is identified as Holos Carmen, a formidable first-class knight known as Epee of Destruction. Two third-class knights, the calm Lefri and the impatient Nabila, report on the enemy's impenetrable barrier. Another knight speculates that their target's non-necromancy magical techniques must also be top tier. Two female knights, the serious Thelma and the composed Adrian, listen intently to the reports. The impatient Nabila clicks his tongue in frustration, unable to stand the delay in their mission. A second-class knight, Senri, calmly explains the barrier's critical weakness, an inside guide. The Lord reflects on the name of the powerful technique, the deterring labyrinth. Holus Carmen expresses his grim determination to destroy this dangerous and longtime foe. He vows to eliminate the necromancer before he has the chance to become a first-class threat. He nods to himself, his mind made up and his course of action decided. Holus Carmen turns his attention to Senri, entrusting her with the command of the mission. He gives her direct command of the team, confident that she and her comrades can succeed. Senri formally accepts the responsibility, her gaze steady as she addresses him as Master. Holus Carmen's eyes are closed in thought, his confidence in her abilities absolute and unwavering. He praises her, stating that her power, even at this stage, is already close to that of a first-class knight. He calls her a pure spirit, a true swordswoman of light, a title she silently contemplates. He introduces her full name, Senri Silvas, a chosen one blessed by the gods since her birth. He explains her blessing is an innate ability to cleanse darkness, a ray brighter than any seen before. He believes that with enough experience, she will surely grow to surpass even him in power. He plans to endorse her for promotion to first-class knight after her success in eliminating Hollows. Senri expresses her own self-doubt, feeling that she is still lacking in some way. Her master dismisses her concerns, assuring her that a lack of power is not the issue. Her comrades agree, praising her natural talent in swordsmanship and her indisputable blessing. Holus Carmen reveals that he has only one true concern about her readiness for command. It is her naivety, a flaw she acknowledges with a worried and slightly pained expression. He grimly states that necromancers are cunning foes, a warning born of long and bloody experience. Senri listens intently, a bead of sweat on her cheek, taking his serious words to heart. She steels herself, vowing to her master that her naivety will not be an issue in this mission. She recalls the many tragedies she has witnessed, calling necromancers the enemies of all mankind. She believes her divine blessing exists for the sole purpose of punishing them and granting their soul's salvation. A cheerful Lefri encourages their master to count on them to support Senri in her command. He winks, boasting that the rest of the team is far more experienced and can guide her. The entire team rallies around Senri, promising to make up for whatever she may lack. Their master listens to their reassurances, his hands clasped in quiet, thoughtful contemplation. He theorizes that the necromancer must have collaborators within the town, as he cannot survive alone. He gives Senri her final orders: continue the search, as he has no intention of intervening himself. He instructs her to report back to him only if something truly strange or unexpected occurs. Senri's face is firm and resolute, accepting the full weight of her command and her responsibility. A large half-timbered building stands tall, serving as the base of operations for the knights. A young knight, Senri, stands at attention, dutifully acknowledging her master's command. Her hands are shown gripping a letter tightly as she sits at a desk. Seated in a simple chair, her posture is somber and contemplative. A close-up reveals her serious expression as she listens to an unseen person. The imposing figure of a male comrade interrupts her quiet thoughts. He expresses his clear frustration, stating that 5 days have passed. Senri remains silent, her expression still and unreadable as she listens. Her comrade aggressively suggests using her powerful blessing to destroy the forest. She calmly objects, explaining it's a last resort due to the immense risk. He retorts angrily, accusing her of the naivety their master warned her about. He insists that any collateral damage is better than facing a second-class necromancer. Senri's head bows, her face hidden in shadow as she absorbs his harsh words. With a heavy heart, she internally concedes that his logic is sound. Her thoughts turn to the grim duty of her order, exterminating darkness above all. This duty requires the resolve for battle, even at the cost of civilian lives. Yet she reflects on her personal motivation for becoming a knight, to help the weak. A painful memory surfaces of a frail, bedridden girl ruined by immense power. Gripping her sword tightly, she finds the resolve she needs to fight. Asserting her leadership, she declares that their search will continue for now. Her comrade clicks his tongue, annoyed by her decision to wait. He argues that their enemy will only use this time to build their strength. His voice rises in anger, warning that their comrades' lives are at stake. Senri's hair falls across her face as she absorbs his furious outburst. The strain and weight of command are visible on her troubled face. Overwhelmed but resolute, her expression shows the pain of her difficult choice. She clenches her fist, setting a firm deadline of 3 more days. She issues orders to prepare for the forest's destruction in the aftermath. Her comrade's expression softens slightly, accepting her decisive command. He places a reassuring hand on her shoulder in a gesture of support. He acknowledges her orders with a simple statement of understanding. The door closes with a bang, leaving Senri alone with her heavy thoughts. She sits in silence, her gaze distant and troubled by the path ahead. A knock at the door interrupts her solitary contemplation. A maid enters, informing Senri that a letter has arrived for her. Senri turns her head, her expression a mixture of surprise and confusion. She wonders aloud, questioning who would possibly send a letter to her. In another location, the hooded lord instructs En to continue gathering deaths. He tells En that he must evolve into a dark stalker in time. The lord promises to conduct a ritual to make him the ultimate being. He reveals this ultimate being as the legendary and powerful Undead Lord. En quietly reads a book, processing this new and terrifying information. He wonders to himself what being ultimate truly entails for him. The Lord offers no further explanation, leaving En in suspense. Despite the silence, it was a question En felt he had to ask. He ponders if this power could make him stronger than the Knights of Demise. His true desire is simply to live in peace, free from everyone's grasp. He reaffirms to himself that his objective has never been about strength. Closing his eyes, he calms his thoughts, his secret resolve now set. His eyes open with sharp clarity. He has done everything that he could. His gloved hand rests on a book, acknowledging that this is a gamble. The players are set for the conflict, the Lord and the girl named Senri. As he walks along a stone ledge, he wonders who will be victorious. He recalls the Lord's confident assertion that they would make it in time. While performing a handstand, he knows this belief is a grave mistake. His eyes widen in alarm as a curse escapes his lips. He realizes with panic that the labyrinth of deterrence has failed. The enemy is approaching far too quickly, leaving no time to prepare. He lands perfectly from his acrobatic maneuver, his body tense. He briefly wonders if the merchant hack could have betrayed him. Landing in a crouch, he knows the enemy is as resolved as he is. Standing with arms outstretched, he declares, "Only the Lord is unprepared." The Lord's face is a mask of pure shock and unadulterated rage. His brow furrows in anger as he calls out En's name. En looks over his shoulder with a cold, impassive expression. The Lord roars for him to come, announcing the order is here. En remains still, a subtle, knowing smirk playing on his lips. The close-up on his smirk reveals his hidden defiance and secret plan. The chapter's title page shows the advancing knights in a dynamic pose. One of the knights expresses his surprise that there was no trap waiting. Another knight admits she was certain they were walking into an ambush. Senri, holding a letter, deduces they must have allies on the inside. She explains that the labyrinth technique fails against guided intruders. This confirms that the necromancer's encampment has been infiltrated. A knight's hand tightens on their weapon, preparing for the coming battle. Senri's gaze is sharp and determined as she gets ready to advance. She cautions her comrades that their enemy will command countless undead. A comrade reassures her, promising their full support in the fight. The group of knights stands together, ready to face the imminent threat. They break into a run, charging forward as a unified force. The dilapidated mansion looms before them, cracks spidering its old walls. From a high balcony, the Lord and Enru watch their approach. The knights close in on the tall, ornate gates of the estate. En notes with grim certainty that the enemy is rapidly closing in. The Lord expresses relief that the powerful knight Destruction is not present. He declares with sinister glee that he will show them his necromantic secret. En questions if they can possibly win against such overwhelming power. He knows with absolute certainty that the Lord must die for him to be free. As long as his master lives, he will never have the freedom to survive. The Lord raises his gnarled, twisted staff, preparing to cast his spell. He begins a dark incantation, calling upon souls from the underworld. En and Ru watch from a doorway as undead beasts begin to appear. The Lord commands his newly risen creations to trample on their enemies. His final command is for them to destroy all that is living. A horde of undead beasts erupts, the corpse parade beginning its march. A monstrous wolf snarls, its eyes glowing with malevolent energy. En and Ru stand before the beast, the girl covering her mouth in fear. The undead creatures claw their way from the very earth itself. A massive bear roars, its rotted form a terrifying and imposing sight. En observes, questioning the Lord's decision not to strengthen his army. The undead horde swarms the courtyard, surrounding the advancing knights. From the bushes, the Lord watches his beast, confident it will buy him time. En questions why he isn't being strengthened, noting the ultimate technique's requirements. His master, Holos, dismisses the undead army as nothing more than expendable pawns. Holos explains that too much power erodes the body, a risk he won't take. A thoughtful End understands that this situation seems suspiciously too good to be true. The Lord gloats about having the necessary material, eager to see the slaughtered knights. End calmly deduces that this material must be the mysterious gigantic fang he saw. He internally admits his ignorance about the fang, wanting no further involvement in this. Standing with Rue, End requests battle equipment, listing several specific magical items. Holos agrees to the request, telling him the items are in the laboratory. The Lord issues a strict order for End to retrieve the items and return immediately. With a simple acknowledgement, End turns to leave, seemingly obeying his master's command. As he walks away, End casts a brief, almost imperceptible glance towards Rue. A silent, meaningful look passes between End and the worried Rue. From the safety of a doorway, Rue watches with concern as End departs. Her face reveals a deep apprehension, her thoughts remaining unspoken and troubled. A moment passes, signifying a shift in location and intent. Alone, he opens a box, revealing the ornate and glowing shadow amulet within. He prepares for his departure, putting on the amulet and a dark cloak. His gloved hand reaches down, ready to take the requested hatchet as well. He pauses, deciding against taking the weapon, deeming it unnecessary for his plan. Walking through a vast hall, he reflects that the amulet is no ordinary weapon. Now cloaked, he suspects the amulet is cursed and will not protect him. Striding through the grand corridor, he reveals he never intended to fight. His mind is set on a secret trump card he has been planning. His secret weapon is revealed, the name he possessed when he was alive. A flashback explains that mages use names to bind spirits and form contracts. He recalls his resurrection when the Lord named him End to ensure obedience. However, he retained vivid memories of his original name from his past life. Therefore, he concludes with certainty his true identity is not End. This realization means the Lord's commands to End hold no true power over him. All this time, he has concealed his true nature, awaiting the perfect moment. Now walking away, he knows that the crucial time for betrayal has arrived. A flashback reveals he was the one who wrote to Senri, exposing the location. He recalls wagering everything on Senri's victory in the coming conflict. If she were to lose, he would be recaptured by the Lord. A second chance at freedom would be completely lost to him forever. His determined profile shows a man who has accepted his high-stakes gamble. The battle rages as Senri and her knights fight the undead horde. A knight with a ponytail desperately asks if they have found the necromancer. Another knight expresses awe at the necromancer's power to control so many undead. A comrade suggests retreating, but Senri firmly rejects the idea of backing down. Her companion laughs, admitting he had anticipated her resolute refusal to retreat. He leaps into the fray, expertly dodging the attacks of the monstrous wolves. With admiration, he praises her as a true first-class knight candidate. Senri's expression remains calm, her focus absolute amidst the chaotic battle. A close-up on her eye reveals an unshakable and piercing determination. One of her comrades watches her with a look of deep concern. The female knight also shows her worry for their leader's chosen strategy. A third knight, wearing glasses, shares the same apprehensive expression. Even the ponytailed knight's usual bravado is replaced with genuine concern. She knows she has plenty of power, but her allies must conserve theirs. She leaps onto the back of a massive undead wolf, taking action. Slaying the beast, she knows she cannot be delayed here any longer. Her expression hardens, her focus sharpened for the decisive move she must make. She declares her intention to wipe out the entire undead army at once. Holding her sword ready, she prepares to unleash an immense amount of power. The hilt of her sword begins to glow as a comrade watches in shock. The watching knight stammers, shocked by the power she's about to unleash. He recognizes this technique as one their powerful master would typically use. In a powerful motion, she plunges her glowing sword deep into the ground. A brilliant wave of light erupts from the point of the sword's impact. Her face is illuminated by the overwhelming holy light she is now unleashing. Her eyes gleam as she invokes the name of her devastating sacred technique. A massive vortex of light consumes the battlefield, engulfing the undead horde. An undead wolf screams in agony as the pure light completely vaporizes it. Awe and disbelief are etched on the face of her watching comrade. A close-up reveals Senri's intensely focused gaze, her power at its peak. The female knight can only stare in amazement at the display of power. Even the boisterous ponytailed knight is stunned into a respectful silence. The vortex of light clears the entire area, leaving her allies unharmed. In the quiet aftermath, Senri stands alone, Her powerful attack concluded. The ponytailed knight lets out a low whistle, clearly impressed by her strength. He praises her, and she explains that a prolonged fight would be worse. Adjusting her tie, she appears weary, but her resolve remains completely unbroken. She reassures them, insisting she is fine and has barely used her power. Her expression hardens, urging them to press the attack before Holos reorganizes. The group of knights runs as one through the forest toward the mansion. They arrive at the mansion's large ornate gates, which stand wide open. The main doors to the mansion itself are also ominously standing ajar. The ponytailed knight observes the open doors with a wry, knowing smirk. He comments sarcastically that it appears they are being welcomed inside. A monstrous hand flexes as a voice reflects on a long, difficult journey. Holos reflects on the 50 years since he was a second-class necromancer. He gloats over his greatest ambition, the creation of the undead lord. Kneeling, he contemplates that through this singular creation, he will achieve his goal. He will finally become one of the most powerful beings in the world. He feels fortunate to have found a prodigy like N for his ritual. End is confident that with his intelligence, he will succeed in the ritual. Before the glowing magic circle, Holos declares this to be the final test. Rue stands by somberly, holding a simple ladle, her role yet unknown. A cruel smile plays on Holos's lips as he eyes the magic circle. He places a hand on Rue's shoulder, informing her she also has a part. Rue looks up in shock, her face a mask of sudden dawning terror. Holos explains that even weaklings have their use in tainting the knight's power. By tainting their pride, their power will diminish, and he turns to Rue. He gives a terrifying command for her to attack the chivalric order of demise. Inside, a colossal skeleton disintegrates under a wave of holy purifying energy. The remains of a defeated armored knight clatter to the hard stone floor. Senri pants heavily, sweat on her brow, clearly exhausted by the intense battle. A knight with a ponytail yells at his leader, Senri, for using so much of her power. Looking exhausted, Senri confirms the Scare Crimson Knight is defeated, as another knight thanks her. The ponytailed man complains about the annoying necromancer, sarcastically wondering if a vampire's next. Thelma, another female knight, doubts a cautious necromancer would unleash such a dangerous creature. Her flustered companion concedes that a lesser vampire might be possible, sighing in frustration. He quickly insists his comment was just a joke, telling Senri she takes things too seriously. Thelma then suggests that if a real vampire were to appear, a strategic retreat would be wise. With a serious expression, Senri begins to lecture them on the nature of these special undead. She explains that while they have weaknesses, their powers after transformation are incredibly diverse. A shadowy image of a vampire illustrates her words on their strength, intelligence, and regeneration. An ethereal, grinning creature represents their most dangerous trait, a powerful immunity to magic. Because of this, she clarifies, wise necromancers typically avoid turning their minions into vampires. She concludes that encountering a vampire, a being that can kill third-class knights, requires a retreat. The ponytail knight dismisses the lesson with an annoyed whatever, clearly bored by the details. Senri ignores him, her armored boots stepping forward as she announces their intent to proceed. Her sharp gaze is fixed ahead, her cross-shaped earring glinting as she moves on. The party of knights rushes down a long hall, their speed emphasized by motion lines. One of her companions asks in alarm if there are still more enemies ahead of them. Listening intently, Senri discerns that the approaching footsteps are not those of an undead creature. A single bare foot steps into view, confirming her suspicion that it is just one person. The figure is revealed to be a small, dark-haired girl in a simple tunic and slave collar. Senri's eyes widen in an instant of sharp, sudden recognition. A flood of memories involving this very girl flashes through her mind. The girl, Rue, moves forward, a small dagger held tightly in her hand. A close-up on Rue's eye reveals her grim, desperate determination. Her face is a mask of despair, her gaze downcast as she continues her approach. Senri lets out a sharp gasp, her face a portrait of shock and horror. Her hands reach out helplessly, as if trying to stop what is about to happen. The knight's face is twisted in anguish as she lets out a desperate cry. She questions what is happening, unable to comprehend the unfolding tragedy. Rue's own thoughts are filled with despair as she questions her own actions. Her mind flashes to her lost village, now gone forever. She recalls never knowing the faces of her own parents. A memory shows her as a young, shackled slave without any family. She remembers how she became an ally to a necromancer, an enemy of the world. Looking at her shackled hand, she believes her soul is now irrevocably tainted by sin. A fleeting memory of a promise made to her seems to be her final motivation. She wonders if he will keep his promise to her. With crazed, hopeless eyes, she raises the dagger high, preparing to end her own life. In a blur of motion, she plunges the dagger down, but Senri lunges to intercept it. Senri's eye widens in shock and pain as the blade sinks deep into her shoulder. Her comrades watch in the background, reacting with alarm to the sudden violence. Rue collapses against the knight, the dagger still embedded in Senri's flesh. Looking up at the woman who saved her, Rue's eyes regain a flicker of clarity. Senri cradles the dying girl, her expression one of profound sadness. She gazes down at Rue, thinking what a lovely, pure light she sees in her eyes. A single tear streams down Rue's face as she whispers her thanks to the knight. Senri's pained expression shows she hears the girl's quiet, final words. Rue clarifies that she is thanking Senri for praying for her. She calls the knight a beautiful person. With a faint, peaceful smile, she whispers that this is a first for her, and then dies. Thelma, the other female knight, addresses the grieving Senri by name. She expresses her disapproval, stating she cannot be impressed by Senri's actions. The dark-haired knight agrees, citing the cautionary tale of a knight devoured by a saved slave. The ponytail knight reminds Senri that their job is not to save people. He clarifies that their true purpose is destruction in order to prevent greater tragedy. Senri bows her head in silent grief, still cradling Rue's lifeless body. She remains kneeling on the cold stone floor, lost in the somber moment. A close-up shows her gently holding Rue's head, her sorrow palpable. The dark-haired knight breaks the silence, asking if she is still able to fight. Senri rises, declaring that once Holos is defeated, they will build a grave for the girl. The sharp metallic ring of her sword being drawn from its scabbard cuts through the air. She stands ready, her back to her comrades, her sorrow replaced by firm resolve. Turning to face them, her eyes burn with fierce determination as she commands them to go. The party of knights finally arrives in the main hall, their expressions grim and determined. A menacing, hooded figure, flanked by skeletons, greets the arriving Knights of Demise. The necromancer, Holos Carmen, commends them for reaching his inner sanctum, calling them fearsome. Senri identifies her foe by his full name, Holos Carmen. She formally introduces herself as Senri Silvis of the Chivalric Order of Demise. With cold fury burning in her eyes, she declares her unwavering intention to kill him. Holos Carmen merely scoffs, completely dismissive of her threat. Senri observes the scene, acknowledging to herself that Rue was helpful in leading them here. A flicker of emotion crosses her face as she thinks of the girl's sacrifice. Holos smirks, announcing with confidence that his ultimate technique is already complete. He explains that he has infused the space with his energy of death, pulling it into another world. With manic glee, he screams at them to burn the sight of his power into their eyes and perish. A blinding wave of energy erupts from his position, shocking the knights. The necromancer and his skeletons are consumed by the swirling, chaotic power. A glowing magic circle on the floor fuels the massive transformation. From the torrent of dark energy, two massive, toothy fangs begin to materialize. Thelma looks on in horror, her eyes widening as she recognizes the impossible shape. The dark energy continues to coalesce, forming a monstrous, fanged jaw. The maw takes solid form, its teeth sharp and menacing. The other knights cry out in disbelief, unable to comprehend what they are witnessing. They stammer that it's impossible to create such a creature from just two fangs. Holos stands at the center of the chaos, his face a mask of pure triumph. He commands them to behold his creation as the ground begins to tremble violently. The knights are thrown off balance as debris rains down from the crumbling ceiling. The entire structure begins to collapse under the strain of the immense power. The world dissolves into a maelstrom of destruction and flying rubble. A colossal, two-headed skeletal dragon erupts, roaring as Holos declares it his necromantic secret. The knights stand ready amidst the ruins, facing their new and terrifying opponent. Holos christens the beast the protector of death and guardian of Hades, ordering it to kill them. A swirling vortex of pure dark energy gathers above the dragon's two heads. The dragon lets out another deafening roar, unleashing its devastating power. Senri stands firm, sensing the fearsome energy of death pouring from the creature. Her gaze is sharp and focused, completely undeterred by the overwhelming threat. Her companions, in stark contrast, are frozen in terror, their faces masks of shock. Senri's own expression is one of intense, absolute concentration. In a flash of motion, she leaps high into the air, propelled by an unseen force to meet the dragon. A massive two-headed skeletal dragon roars, its dark energy swirling violently around it. High above the monstrous beast, a young knight named Senri soars through the air. With intense focus, she invokes the name of her powerful light-based technique. She unleashes a massive, sweeping beam of pure white light at the dragon. The hooded necromancer, Hollis Carmen, is stunned by the sudden, overwhelming attack. Struck by the immense wave of purifying energy, the colossal dragon recoils. Hollis Carmen expresses his disbelief, finding the level of power to be absurd. With a sharp gaze, Senri wonders if the power is coming from him. Hollis clenches his fist, realizing his opponent is not acting from simple emotion. He observes that the young knight is not driven by revenge. She looks at him and calmly states that he is going to die. Hollis is taken aback, the knight's serene resolve unnerving him. He questions if she could possibly be a legendary first-class knight. Senri calmly confirms that she will be. She declares that her power and purpose are part of a prophecy. The clash between light and darkness erupts in a chaotic explosion of energy. Her comrades engage the dragon's tail, fighting to support her. Hollis Carmen raises his staff, preparing to channel more power into his creation. A hooded observer watches the epic struggle from a safe distance. He stands amidst the trees overlooking the now ruined estate. His expression is calm and observant as chaos unfolds below. He reflects that this is a legendary battle unfolding before him. The fight is the kind that will surely be recorded in history. His sharp gaze reveals a deeper layer to the conflict. He notes that the one fighting on the front lines is Senri. He acknowledges that she is just a single young girl. He admits he has placed all his bets on her success. He silently contemplates the outcome of his calculated gamble. A vision of the estate's destruction flashes through his mind. He foresaw that it would be destroyed by flames and light. The prophecy also included destruction by a sword. Finally, it foretold its end would come from a dragon's attack. The hooded observer watches intently as the prophecy unfolds. Hollis Carmen pants heavily, his body battered and bruised. He catches his breath, exhausted from the intense magical battle. He curses a senile old fool named Epée for obstructing his rule. His hand tightens around his gnarled staff in frustration. He prepares to unleash one final decisive assault. The two-headed dragon roars, empowered by its master's magic. The observer concludes Hollis will decide the battle with this next move. His keen eye analyzes the final moments of the conflict. Below, Senri's comrades look on in terror, bracing for the attack. The observer questions if Senri and the others can withstand the onslaught. Senri stands firm, a spear of light now in her hand. Hollis Carmen unleashes a massive, swirling wave of pure dark energy. Senri watches the attack approach, her expression focused. A vast vortex of darkness barrels towards her. An armored knight recalls Hollis Carmen as his master's longtime foe. The dragon's immense, scaled body surges forward with the attack. Hollis Carmen sneers, certain of his impending victory. The dragon's reptilian eye glints with malice. The torrent of dark energy roars as it surges forward. Senri remains surprisingly calm, a faint knowing smile on her lips. Her female comrade screams her name in a panic. Her male companion shouts for her to get away. A thought that has long bothered her finally crystallizes. A faint image of her shows she understands the mission's true purpose. She realizes it was to pass the torch from an old hero. The mission was being passed to the next generation of knights. Hollis declares that it's over, seeing her caught in the attack. Senri is engulfed by the swirling abyss of dark energy. Her comrades cry out her name in terror. She stands defiantly at the heart of the vortex of darkness. Her eyes are wide, not with fear, but with unwavering resolve. She lets out a primal scream of pure, unadulterated effort. An immense explosion of pure white light erupts from her position. Hollis is caught off guard, his body disintegrating in the radiant blast. The two-headed dragon is also caught in the purifying light. Its colossal form crumbles into dust. The last of its essence scatters on the wind. Silence falls upon a scene of utter devastation and ruin. Senri collapses to the ground, exhausted but victorious. She pants heavily, her body trembling with the shock of her victory. Her hair falls over her face as she catches her breath. The Lord Hollis Carmen is seen disintegrating into wisps of energy. He expresses his disbelief at his opponent's power. A shadowy figure questions how she could possess such strength. The Lord's face is a mask of rage as he vanishes. Panting, Senri declares that this marks the end for him. The last of the Lord's energy dissipates over the rubble. A hooded figure reflects on the vexing outcome of the battle. A memory shows the Lord lamenting his unfulfilled heart's desire. His spectral form vanishes completely into nothingness. The observer, the hooded young man, watches the aftermath. His gamble on Senri has paid off. He lets out a quiet exclamation of relief. He realizes with joy that he has won his bet. A triumphant smile spreads across his face as he declares his survival. He looks down at a memory of the chivalric order. His triumphant mood sobers into quiet contemplation. He thinks about the existence of comrades. His foot steps on the grassy ground as he ponders. He muses that if the Lord had allies, the outcome might have differed. He stands alone amidst the devastation, thinking about the Lord's fight. He acknowledges that the Lord fought with his full might. He concludes that despite this, the Lord still lost. He considers that the Lord was his natural enemy. Yet he also acknowledges that he was his savior. He stands atop the rubble, realizing he must move. He knows he has no time to bask in the victory's afterglow. A hooded young man considers his next move, thinking of a caveat. He stands amidst the rubble, resolving to first fulfill a promise. Closing his eyes, he senses a familiar scent coming from the debris. His cloak flutters as he begins moving through the ruined landscape. He carefully navigates the treacherous broken stones of the battlefield. Reaching out, he expresses surprise she wasn't completely buried. He finds her, noting that some divine protection must have saved her. With gentle care, he lifts the still form of the young woman. Her peaceful, deceased face rests against him, an arrow still in place. He softly tells her he will prepare a grave, fulfilling his promise. A faint, sad smile touches his lips as he looks down at her. He quietly asks if she is glad she made this agreement with him. Holding her, he decides it is time to find her a resting place. He enters a quiet, leafy clearing in the nearby forest to begin. He finds a jagged piece of wood to use as a grave marker. He seems to have a simple idea for the makeshift grave he's making. He tries to use the piece of wood as a headstone for her. He looks down at Rue's still, peaceful face as he works. The arrow remains lodged in her chest, a remnant of the battle. A sharp splinter from the wood pricks his gloved finger unexpectedly. He lets out a small yelp of pain as dark energy smokes from his hand. He discards the splintered wood, realizing it won't work for his purpose. He gently cradles her head, preparing to lay her in the grave. He apologizes, admitting he doesn't know how to perform a proper burial. He tells her she is luckier than the Lord as she gets a grave. He shrugs, musing that the Lord ultimately got what he deserved. He walks through the clearing, looking for a better grave marker. He finds a more suitable object to use for her headstone. He finds a large, smooth stone, perfect for his intended purpose. A thought occurs to him as he examines the stone he has found. He has a sudden, bright idea for how to complete the grave. He exclaims in pain again, perhaps from another splinter while working. His hand reaches out to the large, smooth stone he has selected. He thinks it seems too lonely for her grave to only have a first name. He admits to himself that he does not know Rue's last name. He decides his own last name, Carmen, will have to suffice for her. He places the newly inscribed stone, satisfied with his work on the grave. He clasps his hands together, bowing his head in a solemn prayer. He silently asks that Rue may finally be able to rest peacefully. A woman's voice suddenly cuts through the silence, questioning his actions. The air shifts as he recognizes the unexpected visitor before him. His eyes widen in shock and alarm at her sudden appearance. Senri stands before him, dressed in a formal knightly uniform. He is caught completely off guard, frozen by her commanding presence. The tense standoff begins, his surprise evident as she watches him. Her expression is serious and unreadable, her gaze fixed upon him. His mind races, questioning how she could have arrived so quickly. He had expected her order to take at least a night to return. A jolt of panic runs through him as he processes the danger. He desperately commands himself to think of a way out of this. He first notes that she has come alone, which is good news. However, he senses her positive energy is now even stronger than before. He concludes that she is truly a monster in her own right. He recalls that she saw him together with Rue back in town. He knows he'll be deemed an enemy for his association with Rue. A bead of sweat forms as he realizes the gravity of his situation. He watches her, her figure framed by the bright sky and trees. He glances at her, trying to read her expression for any weakness. A realization about her nature suddenly dawns on him. He senses a hesitation in her stance as she stands before him. A flicker of his own dark energy reacts to his dawning realization. He recalls their first meeting in town, remembering a key detail. He noticed then that she was different from the other knights. She possessed something that her comrades in the order did not. He identifies this unique quality within her, his only hope. He names her defining trait, the one he will exploit, her compassion. Senri's expression is one of confusion and slight distress. He turns to her, beginning his calculated appeal to her nature. He calmly explains that Rue asked him to make her a grave. He concludes by stating that he was simply praying for her peace. Senri listens, her stern expression softening as she quietly agrees. A faint, knowing smile touches his lips as his gamble begins. He addresses her hesitantly, feigning a polite uncertainty. He asks her directly what her purpose is for coming here. Senri looks away for a moment, her expression unreadable. She reveals she came to retrieve Rue's corpse for a town burial. His eyes widen slightly at this unexpected piece of information. He smiles, remarking that he shouldn't have gone to the trouble. He makes a calculated assumption about her relationship with Rue. He asks if she and Rue were friends, probing for a reaction. He watches her closely, his gaze sharp and analytical. He covers his face with his hand as she prepares her response. She corrects him, stating with deep emotion that Rue was her family. He feigns surprise, asking how that could be possible. He explains that Rue had no future and subconsciously hoped for death. He tells Senri that she and her team were Rue's true saviors. Senri's expression darkens, acknowledging the painful truth in his words. Her hand tightens on her weapon's hilt, her conflict visible. He notes that while she's hard to read, her sympathy is genuine. He decides to take a gamble based on her compassionate nature. He points out the sad irony that he cannot cry despite his sorrow. Senri's eyes widen, shocked by his sudden, strange confession. She stumbles back, completely caught off guard by his words. She stares at him, her mind reeling from his unbelievable claim. He calmly confirms her unspoken question, stating he is a ghoul. He adds that by some twist of karma, he retained his human memories. Senri is stunned into silence, unable to comprehend this revelation. He asks if she would be willing to listen to his story. He offers to tell her about his lingering attachment to life. He frames it as the tragic and forlorn tale of end. He remembers being able to stand on his own two legs and run freely. These simple freedoms, he recalls, were enough to provide him with ultimate happiness. He poses a philosophical question to Senri about the true difference between humans and undead. His question specifies an undead that does not attack humans and has no need to. The knight listens to his profound question, her expression thoughtful and serious. With dawning understanding, she connects his words to the letter she received from him. End explains that Rue was helping him, as Hollis Carmen planned a terrifying ritual. He confesses his desire to avoid being ordered to attack people at all costs. It was truly fortunate, he explains, that she and her team visited the town. With a sincere smile, he tells her that he can still remain human at heart. Senri's expression shifts to shock as she processes his heartfelt confession. Her face softens with a somber understanding of his difficult situation. He says that luckily, there are no humans living within this forest. His plan is to live peacefully, protecting Rue's grave and hunting for food. Senri's gloved hand clenches, showing her internal conflict before she quietly understands. He asks her with a hopeful smile if such a peaceful life is possible. The knight stands in quiet contemplation, processing his unusual request. A gentle breeze rustles the leaves as the sun shines through the trees. An arrow stands as a simple marker on the small, makeshift grave mound. He lets out a small, relieved sound, his face softening with gratitude. The sky above is filled with light clouds, signaling a peaceful afternoon. After a long pause, Senri quietly says that she understands his position. She admits it is her first time encountering an undead with its past memories. She tells En that since he has retained his reasoning, there should be no issue. En notes to himself that she still harbors doubts about his nature. He also senses a deep resignation in her, believing she will persuade her comrades. In his mind, she is a person who is righteous and kind in every way. He feels a wave of relief, his clawed hand clutching his chest. A genuine smile spreads across his face as he states Rue would be pleased. Senri offers to return tomorrow, asking him to tell her if he needs anything. He suggests that it would be nice if she could bring flowers for Rue. She agrees without hesitation, promising to bring them to him without fail. A close-up on his eye reveals a hint of his inner thoughts and feelings. He thanks her, his smile tinged with a heart-wrenching sadness. He watches her kneel by the grave, a truly heart-wrenching sight for him. Senri clasps her hands together, offering a quiet prayer for the deceased girl. He thinks with grim certainty that he will probably never see her again. She turns and begins to walk away, her figure receding into the trees. He lets out a soft sound, a thought occurring to him at the last moment. He calls out Senri's name, stopping her before she disappears from view. Her foot halts mid-step as she stops to listen to his final words. He remembers something Hollis Carmen mentioned to him in the past. He asks her if she knows what an undead lord is, though it's not important. Senri repeats the term undead lord, the name unfamiliar and ominous to her. He explains it's a necromancer who uses forbidden techniques to become undead. As she walks away, he declares that it is no longer a concern. He watches her disappear, his face now a mask of cold calculation. The sun begins to set, casting long shadows through the forest canopy. Now alone, his mind turns to the grim reality of his situation. He knows Senri plans to persuade her comrades, but he feels it is futile. The chivalric order of demise, he recalls, has a duty to subjugate all darkness. There is no doubt in his mind that they will surely come to kill him. He envisions the knights coming for him as a group, their weapons drawn. They will hunt the terrifying being who deceived their princess to survive. Despite the overwhelming odds, his resolve does not waver in the slightest. His one and only wish, he reaffirms, is simply to be able to live. He apologizes to Senri in his mind, knowing he must now betray her trust. He knows he must hurry and flee this place before they return for him. His plan is to get as far away from here as he possibly can. A voice calls his name, End, his eyes widening in complete shock. A powerful force strikes him from behind, sending him staggering with immense impact. A spectral blade materializes as a voice declares that the time has finally arrived. The menacing face of Holos Carmen appears, confirming that the fated moment is here. He addresses End as the vessel of the undead lord, his smile cruel. End staggers back, unable to believe that his former master is still alive. He questions how it is possible for him to have survived their previous battle. He senses Carmen's presence is faint and weak, but he is undeniably there. Carmen acknowledges his weakened state, but seems unconcerned by it. He gloats that the spirit fragments he implanted within End proved to be useful. End wonders if his master has been reborn as a ghost or some other spirit. He tightens his grip on the hilt of his large sword, preparing for a fight. Carmen calls this the price for End's cleverness and not finishing the job himself. End accepts that he must be the one to end this, here and now. He tells the spectral lord that he will do it, feigning confidence. Carmen reveals that his final spirit was implanted within End's body. This was a necessary part of the ritual, and End's survival was just luck. End understands now that this is the reason his former master still exists. With a glowing staff, Carmen declares that the ritual will now commence. He states that while the plans have changed, the outcome is still inevitable. His life is now just a remnant, he explains with a sinister grin. A low, sinister chuckle escapes End's lips as he listens to the declaration. Carmen calls End's body his greatest masterpiece, a perfect vessel for his plans. His spirit, he declares, is the final key to fulfilling his heart's desire. With a clawed hand, Carmen commands End to cease his actions and not resist. End lets out a sharp gasp, seemingly affected by the powerful command. The spectral figure of the necromancer stands tall, radiating an aura of dark power. He faces his former creation, his spectral staff glowing with sinister energy. An unseen force seems to clash, a silent battle of wills beginning. A strange, ribbon-like object, perhaps part of the spell, hovers in the air. With a swift motion, Carmen unleashes a powerful slash with a spectral blade. End dodges the attack, his body moving with practiced, athletic grace. His eye widens in shock as he narrowly avoids the immaterial weapon. Under the full moon, Carmen seems surprised that End could evade the blow. End lets out a soft sound of exertion after his quick dodge. Carmen realizes his command had no influence, concluding his powers have weakened. End spins around, launching a counterattack with his own massive sword. Carmen dismisses the physical attack as completely futile against his new form. He praises End's intelligence, bravery, and caution, but notes a fatal flaw. With a condescending look, he informs End that he lacks crucial knowledge. He declares that End's physical attacks will no longer work on him. With his sword passing harmlessly through his foe, the young man stares in shock. An internal thought confirms this undead possesses great immunity against physical attacks. A book excerpt identifies the creature as a wraith, a purely spiritual being. He realizes the Lord has likely become a being similar to this ghost. His mind confirms his enemy is now a creature that cannot be physically touched. Stumbling back in shock, his foot digs firmly into the forest floor. Facing the spectral lord, he holds his sword ready, processing this new reality. His hands tighten their grip on his sword as he prepares for the fight. A wild, manic laugh suddenly erupts from him, echoing through the trees. His spectral foe assumes he has finally lost his mind out of terror. Holos Carmen declares that his long wait is over. He is the undead lord. The young man's laughter subsides, replaced by a look of sharp, dawning realization. Memories flood his mind, defining the undead lord as a transformed necromancer. He now understands that he is the intended vessel for this ultimate being. Realizing he is the vessel, he knows he must learn to master it. The Lord's true desire had always been a talented soul to serve as his vessel. This explains why Holos never imparted any knowledge to him. A look of cold, calculating intelligence glints in his eye as a plan forms. He scoffs at his enemy's claim that he lacks crucial knowledge. He knows that while that might be true, his true strength lies in thinking. A memory of his bedridden past confirms his only actions were thinking and enduring. Those were the only things he was ever permitted to do. He hurls a small disc-like object as a feint to distract his foe. Dashing past the spectral lord, he puts his new desperate plan into motion. The lord looks on, momentarily confused by the sudden, unexpected movement. The young man addresses Hollis Carmen by name, his back still turned. He calmly begins to explain his adversary's greatest, most fatal weakness. That weakness, he states with certainty, is that Hollis is incredibly short-sighted. The spectral lord utters a confused "what?" Zrenya completely caught off guard. He reveals Hollis was deceived, unaware of the secret agreement with Rue. With sharp eyes, he asks if the lord knows where they are standing now. He explains he has been subconsciously leading his foe to this exact spot. A jolt of pure shock runs through Hollis as he realizes the trap. The young man holds a silver-tipped arrow, its power smoking in his hand. A book excerpt explains that wraiths are weak against particular attacks. Though immune to much, they are weak to positive and magical energy. In other words, silver weapons are a wraith's greatest, most absolute weakness. With a final, desperate lunge, he plunges the silver arrow into his enemy. A monstrous, tusked face grins, asking if he thought he had screamed. Hollis sighs, chiding the young man for his profound lack of magical knowledge. He reveals he is not a simple wraith. His source ensures his immortality. The young man is stunned, his meticulously crafted plan having completely failed. Hollis points out that even his own weapon, the Blood Ruler, couldn't harm him. The Lord expresses a moment of fleeting pity for his defeated opponent. He reassures him his vessel will become the most powerful undead lord. The young man looks up with a cold smirk, uttering a chilling, "Drop dead." Hollis lets out a small sound of amusement at the continued defiance. As a clawed hand reaches for him, he states that he is already dead. Their heads press together as Hollis whispers, "This fate belongs to them both." The young man lets out a dry, grimly amused laugh at the situation. He remarks that he never expected Hollis Carmen to possess a sense of humor. Suddenly, a psychic assault plunges him into a dark, watery abyss. Shadowy hands grasp at him, pulling him down as he chokes in the depths. In the real world, he clutches his head, racked by immense psychic pain. His face is a mask of pure shock and agony, his body trembling violently. He collapses to the ground, panting, completely overwhelmed by the mental attack. A close-up shows his gloved hand clutching desperately at his own cloak. His eyes are wide with terror as his body convulses uncontrollably on the ground. His mind is flooded with a torrent of alien knowledge and arcane symbols. The psychic force pins him down, a web of dark, oppressive energy ensnaring him. He stumbles to a tree, desperately trying to catch his breath. He falls to his knees, gasping for air, the assault relentless. Leaning against the tree, he pants, trying to find a moment of respite. He struggles to breathe, his body pushed to its absolute physical limit. Clutching his head, he tries to fight off the overwhelming mental force. He slams his head back against the tree in a violent spasm of agony. He questions what is happening to him, his mind reeling from the assault. He feels nauseous, admitting he knows nothing, as dark fluid trickles from his eye. As he pants, he realizes the only thing he knows for certain in this chaos is that if he loses focus for even a second, he will die. His body convulses again, his form trembling violently on the forest floor. A hazy memory of his time confined to a sickbed flashes through his mind. He reaches a hand up as if trying to grasp something from the memory. He feels his very being changing, his body transforming under the immense strain. The grotesque transformation continues, an agonizing and involuntary process. His soul itself is being rewritten, twisted into something new and alien. He realizes with horror that his soul is fusing with that of another. A voice urges him to become stronger, more fiendish, and more worthy. He understands this flood of memories and knowledge is not his own. He desperately tells himself that he must not accept this foreign power. A spectral figure questions why he would possibly resist such a gift. Hollis Carmen stands before him, asking why he will not take the power. The young man looks up, his face a mask of sweat, pain, and confusion. The spectral figure stands motionless, waiting for his inevitable submission. He analyzes the being, realizing that it is not a physical body. He concludes it is not a soul either, merely a projection of power. With a surge of desperate energy, he identifies it as a simple illusion. He lunges forward, shouting that he will not be fooled by an illusion. He passes through the spectral form without any physical resistance. He crashes hard into the dirt, his desperate final attack having failed. He gasps for air, lying face down on the unforgiving forest floor. He pants, utterly exhausted by the failed attempt to fight back. The illusion solidifies, revealing a man who praises his surprisingly strong soul. The man expresses disbelief that he could possibly resist him. He taunts the young man, telling him he has strayed too deep into the abyss. Visions of other victims flash by, showing the fate of those who came before. Their twisted, broken forms serve as a stark warning of what is to come. They were all consumed by the very power he now faces. The entity declares that the likes of a mere diseased soul cannot win. Pushing himself up, the young man declares with fierce resolve that he will live. On the forest floor, a young man with white hair vows with fierce determination that he will live and obtain his freedom. Under the moonlight, he leaps gracefully through the air, as if trying to escape a looming, shadowy figure. A hooded entity with glowing eyes declares that it is impossible for the young man to resist its power. With a commanding hand gesture, the entity orders someone named End to cease all resistance immediately. Hearing the name End, the young man is filled with a profound sense of confusion. His eyes widen in shock as he questions the identity of the person being addressed by that name. Suddenly, an unseen force throws him backward, his body convulsing from the powerful psychic assault. He stumbles violently, the world shaking around him as the invisible attack continues relentlessly. Landing hard on the ground, he struggles to maintain his footing amidst the overwhelming chaos. Clutching his chest, he feels a strange rhythmic thumping, questioning if it is his heart. He realizes with utter astonishment that his heart is indeed beating, a new and powerful sensation. Staggering to his feet, he experiences a moment of profound understanding about his existence. He grasps that the curse's ultimate goal was the creation of the dreaded undead lord. The true purpose of this dark transformation, he understands, is the attainment of immortality. His mind reels at the horrifying concept of staying alive forever through this twisted power. This path was meant to forge a perfect, immortal, and utterly invincible being. A vision of grasping, shadowy hands reveals that for these beings, death is not an end. Before a massive, dark entity, he learns that death is merely a transition to a new existence. The young man grits his teeth, realizing his terrifying ordeal is far from over. The entity declares the transition is complete, and his body will now become its vessel. It promises him an eternal existence, but only as the host for the undead lord. In an act of submission, his own clawed hand begins to force its way into his mouth. With grotesque force, the hand pries his jaw wide open, an act of self-violation. From the darkness, the entity's malevolent eyes watch, sensing its imminent victory. It whispers that it's too bad, believing the young man's will has finally been broken. In a stunning reversal, he roars his defiance, proclaiming that he shall become the undead lord. The shadowy being recoils in absolute shock, unable to comprehend this act of betrayal. A look of wild, manic, and triumphant glee spreads across the young man's face. His mouth opens wide, ready to consume the very power that sought to enslave him. The swirling vortex of dark energy and souls begins to funnel directly into his being. The screaming faces within the mass are pulled into him, becoming his nourishment. He accepts the torrent of dark power, his expression one of ecstatic, victorious hunger. The tendrils of darkness integrate with his very flesh, transforming him completely. With his arms outstretched, he absorbs the entirety of the undead lord's essence. The overwhelming chaotic energy of countless souls courses through his body. The darkness seeps into a wound on his cheek, marking his final monstrous evolution. He is thrown backward by the sheer force of the power he has just claimed as his own. Landing hard on the ground, his body trembles from the immense psychic and physical strain. Lying in the grass, he pants heavily under the watchful eye of the full moon. His eyes are wide with exhaustion, sweat beading on his brow as he recovers. He struggles for breath, each one a monumental and ragged effort. The world seems to fade into a gray haze as he lies still, the ordeal over for now. Gazing up at a strange alien sky, he feels a peculiar sense of mental clarity. Lying on his back, he contemplates his new transformed state in the quiet clearing. His eye twitches slightly as he processes the after effects of his transformation. He notes with surprise that for some reason, his mind feels strangely refreshed. The dangerous memories and knowledge he absorbed seem to have been forgotten. He concludes his instincts must have deemed the information dangerous and sealed it away. Sitting up, he decides it's best not to dwell on the lost, forbidden knowledge. As he tries to stand, he realizes he shouldn't force himself to remember what was sealed. He collapses face first onto the ground, utterly and completely drained of all strength. His eyes widen as he questions why he can't muster any strength in his limbs. His gloved hand clutches the earth as he struggles just to move his body. With a grunt of effort, he drags himself towards the base of a large tree. Leaning against the bark, he pants heavily, wondering if this is what it feels like to be tired. Standing shakily, he can clearly sense a transformation has occurred, changing his very rank. However, his body has not turned black, meaning he did not become a dark stalker. He brushes aside the details for later, his mind focusing on a more immediate problem. He understands the most important matter now is his complete exhaustion of energy. His gaze shifts to the horizon, where he senses a new and terrible danger approaching. The first light of dawn begins to break through the clouds on the horizon. He realizes with dread that the sun is rising, and he is likely gaining new weaknesses. He knows he must leave the magical beast-infested forest and hide before the sunlight becomes fatal. He takes a single step to leave, but a sudden thought gives him pause. He reflects on the feeling of the approaching dawn, a sensation he hasn't felt in a long time. A manic smile appears as he thinks that the rising sun gives off the true feeling of life. He stops, realizing with a jolt that he has forgotten to retrieve his hatchet. He lets out a soft sound of frustration at his own carelessness in the moment. Despite the immense danger, he resolves that he must go back and retrieve his weapon. An arrow suddenly whistles through the air, tearing through the fabric of his hood. His eyes widen in complete shock at the sudden and unexpected ambush. A volley of arrows follows immediately, striking his body with painful, coordinated force. He cries out, stumbling as the sharp projectiles find their mark on his form. A silver arrow pins his leg to the ground, its holy energy burning his flesh. Lying on the ground, he recognizes the silver arrow with a strange sense of relief. The pain from the silver is immense, but he knows his attackers must be human. From the shadows of the trees, a group of armed knights emerges to confront him. He looks up at them, his expression a mixture of profound pain and surprise. A knight with his hair in a ponytail clicks his tongue in clear annoyance. A female knight with a bow accuses him of being the one who deceived their princess. A dark-haired knight named Nebula correctly deduces he is a lesser vampire, not a ghoul. Wounded and confused, the vampire can only ask how they came to be here. The ponytailed knight mockingly repeats his question, showing his utter contempt. The leader of the group asks if he truly doesn't know why they have come for him. His eyes widen in terror as the leader begins to explain their simple, brutal purpose. The armored leader declares that their sole mission as an order is to exterminate monsters. The vampire flinches, his last hope of reasoning with them vanishing in an instant. The leader expresses his surprise, mentioning Senri had insisted on retrieving a corpse from the area. Nebula explains that their princess, Senri, is powerful but naive and a terrible liar. The female archer adds that their group exists to handle the harsh realities Senri cannot. She looks down on him with cold, professional disdain, her bow still at the ready. The vampire pants on the ground, his situation growing more desperate by the second. He begins to plead his case, his voice weak and strained with pain and fear. He desperately explains that he still possesses his memories from when he was alive. The leader confirms Senri told them he consecrated a grave and unheard-of act for a monster. He insists he has never attacked humans and has no intention of ever doing so. The ponytailed knight explodes with rage, roaring that a monster has no right to say Senri's name. The vampire's heart sinks into despair as he wonders if Senri sold him out after all. Nebula clarifies that Senri pleaded for him until the very end, but their master is not as naive. The vampire lies on the ground, defeated and helpless, as the knights stand over him. A female knight kneels, expressing sympathy for the hooded man's terrible, monstrous circumstances. Her stern-faced companion, a knight with a ponytail, looks on, seeking agreement. The hooded man sweats nervously under the knight's intense and accusatory gaze. Suddenly, the ponytailed knight aggressively grabs his female comrade by the shoulder. He furiously accuses End of deceiving their princess, Senri, and scarring her heart. End looks on in utter shock and fear at the knight's explosive accusation. The female knight objects, reminding her aggressive comrade that she is still his senior. The furious knight reasons that only an inconceivable monster could harm the blessed Senri. End frantically pleads that he wants nothing and only wishes to be left alone. The knight leader coldly dismisses his plea, stating they could never let a monster go free. He grimly predicts that End would eventually come to kill them if they did. Another knight, Nebula, notices something glinting beneath End's cloak around his neck. Reaching forward, Nebula pulls a large, ornate amulet from under End's hood. End's face contorts in pure shock and panic as his secret is discovered. Nebula realizes this amulet is why they couldn't sense End's negative energy in town. A close-up shows Nebula's gloved hand yanking the amulet from End's neck. The leader fumes, recognizing it as one of Hollis Carmen's treasures, proof of deception. In his rage, the ponytailed knight brutally shoves his female comrade aside. The leader announces his final duty is to kill End, but pauses with a dark idea. On the ground, En sobs, desperately pleading that he does not want to die. His plea intensifies into a desperate scream, his desire to live overwhelming him. The female knight stands impassively, watching the grim scene unfold before her. The leader coldly acknowledges En's plea with a simple, emotionless, "very well." He offers a final act of mercy, granting En some time to repent. Nabila protests, but the leader asks if he knows the most painful death for an undead. The leader's gloved hand gestures toward the sky, indicating the execution method. En looks up, his face a mask of tear-streaked terror and utter confusion. The female knight explains the torture of sunlight, which buries undead in an abyss of pain. She continues, stating the unending agony makes even the most atrocious undead weep. The leader calls it execution by sunlight, a cruel method used to teach lessons. He declares he will use this method now to grant En the promised time to repent. This torture is punishment for deceiving Senri and for trying to return from death. En latches onto the word time, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. His mind races, believing that with time, he can still think of a solution. As he tries to rise, he is brutally pinned by a sword driven through his hand. The leader smirks, clarifying he is only leaving En's head for repentance. The sun rises, its brilliant rays shining through the forest canopy above. The light intensifies, a harbinger of the immense agony that is to come. Shafts of sunlight pierce the gloom, and En begins to pant with exertion. His severed head lies on the ground, still panting with phantom breaths. Smoke begins to rise from his head as the sunlight makes contact with his flesh. His face contorts in unimaginable pain as his skin begins to sizzle and burn. Through the haze of agony, a grim and horrifying realization dawns on him. He understands with absolute certainty that this is, without a doubt, torture. A sharp sound effect emphasizes a new jolt of searing, unbearable pain. He questions why the Order would choose this most painful death, telling himself to bear it. A flashback shows the knights leaving, proving this was not an oversight on their part. The blistering pain and the punishment by sunlight seem to have no certain end. He feels his very soul dying long before his physical form will give out. His mouth opens in a silent, all-consuming scream of pure, unending torment. A title page shows En and Senri, hinting at their intertwined and tragic fates. The narrative flashes back to a few hours before the torture began. En's severed head lies buried in the dirt, still conscious and aware. He looks over the battlefield, the devastation a backdrop to his grim state. He sees a lone figure walking away from the ruins of the estate in the distance. He muses that this solitude is likely part of the punishment as well. He senses a new presence approaching him through the dark forest. His spectral hooded figure appears, calling him End and noting how pitiful he is. End greets the figure, remarking on his stubbornness for still being here. He sarcastically asks if the figure came for his body, apologizing that only a head is left. The hooded figure, Holos Carmen, dismisses his words as complete nonsense. Holos declares End is defeated, a mere remnant of a remnant with no power left. End quips back, asking if that makes him the remains of a remains of a remains. Holos tells him he is going to die, a fate that could have been avoided. End wonders why he isn't dead yet, questioning the weakness of a vampire's heart. Holos explains that a stake to the heart is a curse, not a biological imperative. End laughs, finding the concept of a curse governing their existence strange. He jokes that a vampire could just gouge out their own heart to remove a weakness. Holos confirms that the heart is undoubtedly a vampire's source of power. Losing it means losing the majority of their abilities, a rule that also applies to End. He explains End is a lesser, a chrysalis with few weaknesses and won't turn to ash. End seems pleased by this news, thinking it's a good thing for his survival. Holos clarifies this only means End's suffering will be cruelly prolonged. End's eyes widen with dawning horror as the grim reality of his situation sets in. His soul will be eroded by the sun as he perishes in a deep and painful hell. Holos' shadowed face confirms End will not be able to survive for long. End asks in quiet desperation what he is supposed to do now. Holos states that his fate is inevitable. Nothing can be done for him anymore. The first ray of sunlight hits the ground near End's head, signaling the start. He understands with finality that this is the end for him. A new thought arises through his despair, a sudden shift in his mindset. He realizes a new conflict begins, a battle of pure, desperate endurance. His eyes widen with a fierce, unwavering determination to survive the ordeal. Sunlight strikes his face and he grimaces in excruciating, burning pain. The brilliant sun hangs in the sky, an instrument of his unending torture. A part of him knows it would all be over if he just accepted death. A memory of his past life on a sickbed surfaces. He knows all too well how to endure. He recalls his unique nature, an undead miraculously reborn with his memories intact. He lets out a silent scream of defiance, refusing to be destroyed by this. The pain is overwhelming, but his powerful will to live persists against all odds. He looks toward the sky, a single desperate wish forming in his mind. He knows he has no chance, no logical plan to follow for survival. What he wishes for more than anything is a second, impossible miracle. He looks at the sun, whispering that it's pretty despite the agonizing pain. A memory surfaces of him in a lavish bed, loving the warm morning sun. The sunlight, once a source of comfort, is now his cruel executioner. That very same sunlight, a symbol of life and hope for so many, now cruelly tries to drive him from this world he so desperately clings to. His eyes, wide with pain and resolve, stare into nothing, focused inward. A final, powerful thought solidifies his will. He does not want to die. In a sun-dappled forest, a woman with light hair embraces a severed head. The man's broken face reveals a single, shocked eye looking up at her. From another angle, she holds his bloodied head protectively against her body. Tears stream down her face as she whispers her own name, Senri, in a daze. The man weakly questions what is happening, his voice barely a whisper. He tells her with great effort that he had been eagerly awaiting her arrival. A single tear of profound relief traces a path through the grime on his cheek. His inner thoughts confirm his unwavering belief that she would come for him. Overwhelmed with joy, he realizes she has truly come to save him from his fate. She continues to shield him from the sun's harsh and deadly rays. He manages a fragile, grateful smile, his eyes closed in a moment of peace. With his last strength, he mouths words of profound gratitude towards her. Suddenly, Senri's expression becomes unnervingly blank, her eyes glowing eerily. A small, strange sound escapes from her as she prepares for a decisive action. With a swift motion, her hands rip open the collar of her own shirt. She forcefully presses his head against her now exposed neck and shoulder. The view focuses on her bare neck, offered to the desperate vampire. His internal thoughts reveal a cold, furious resolve to take what is given. He laments that his enemies should have destroyed him without showing any rage. They made a critical mistake by giving him any time to repent his sins. The knights should have annihilated every last part of his undead being. His hand is shown gripping her hair, positioning his head for the act. He presses his face into the soft, warm skin of her neck. He concludes that because they simply left him, he now has an opportunity. A monstrous, fanged mouth with a serpentine tongue reveals his true intention. He prepares to feast upon what his enemies treasure most, Senri herself. Far away, the knight's headquarters is shown under a dark, cloudy sky. Ape, the master, lets out a thoughtful sound, pondering the current situation. He notes aloud that Senri has still not returned from her mission. Nabila complains about Senri's actions, while another knight suggests she is still affected. The master confesses that he blatantly lied to Senri about the vampire's fate. He believes this harsh lesson is something Senri must eventually experience. Another knight concedes that the master makes a fair point about her development. Ape expressed confidence that the smart Senri will understand after calming down. A knight questions whether it is truly possible for the dead to retain memories. Nabila angrily dismisses the idea, claiming the vampire's inaction was pure coincidence. Ape agrees with Nabila's sentiment, stating that such beings must be destroyed. The group sits in a tense silence following the master's grim pronouncement. The master confirms that undead who possess memories of their past do exist. His words trail off, hinting at a secret known to very few individuals. He continues, emphasizing the rarity and immense danger of this knowledge. This secret, he reveals, is known only to first-class knights of their order. He then tells Nabila that execution by sunlight was not the right choice. The vampire should have been purified instantly, indicating a weakness in his heart. Ape states his belief that such a cruel method requires a sound strategic reason. Nabila lets out a sharp sound of frustration, disagreeing with his master's assessment. The master questions Nabila's order to decisively destroy the vampire. Nabila grunts, insisting that execution by sunlight is indeed a decisive method. He argues passionately that a lesser vampire with just a head is helpless. The master sighs, weary of the argument, but understanding the underlying sentiment. Relenting, he orders Nabila to go find and retrieve Senri immediately. He reminds them they cannot stay in this town with its countless other enemies. Nabila complains about Senri's stubbornness, unsure if he can bring her back. A sudden knock at the door interrupts their tense discussion. Nabila reacts with clear annoyance, assuming it is Senri finally returning. He turns towards the door, sensing Senri's familiar presence just outside. Reaching for the door, he calls out to Senri, chiding her for being late. He freezes mid-motion, his expression twisting into one of utter shock. The other knights watch, realizing something is terribly wrong at the door. Two booted feet step into the room, revealing the unexpected visitor. The knights stare in disbelief at the hooded figure in the doorway. En smiles, explaining he felt he couldn't enter without an invitation. He grins, showing his fangs, attributing it to his lesser vampire nature. The master stares, stunned into silence by the impossible sight before him. En leaps gracefully over the table, landing right amidst the shocked knights. He lands perfectly, his cloak settling around him in the now silent room. He smiles charmingly and asks the master for an autograph, a bizarre request. EP smiles condescendingly, asking if that is why the lesser vampire is here. En lets out a soft, knowing chuckle in response to the master's question. He firmly grasps someone's arm, stating a firm nay to their assumption. Holding up a sword, he announces he has come to deliver a message from Senri. The scene shifts to a tranquil, moonlit night sky over a forest. Senri stands alone by a lake, her expression somber and deeply reflective. A memory of her younger self surfaces as she admits her own naivety. Her thoughts drift, acknowledging the profound naivety of her past actions. She recalls offering her own blood to prevent the vampire's final extinction. She remembers quitting her order to follow him, a great and unforgivable betrayal. Despite the consequences, she now understands the reasons for her momentous choice. She thinks of End, a pitiful undead reborn with his human memories still intact. She speculates that her master likely knew this outcome was always possible. She sits by a tree, her gaze distant as she contemplates her chosen path. The full moon shines brightly, illuminating the quiet, somber scene by the lake. A close-up on her eye reveals her deep insight into his tormented soul. She understood he was just a timid young man trying to be human. This understanding solidifies into a harsh, unwavering, and personal resolve. In a flashback, her face is splattered with a substance like black blood. She accepts the responsibility for a judgment unseemly for a night of demise. She recalls holding her sword to his throat, sealing her solemn vow to him. Her foot plants firmly on the ground, symbolizing the weight of her conviction. The memory fades as she sits quietly by the tree, lost in thought. In the present, En looks at her with a gentle, sincere expression. She returns his gaze with a soft, warm smile of quiet understanding. En begins to recount his tense meeting with the knights of her order. He bows his head slightly, remembering the difficult and dangerous conversation. He admits to her that he was ultimately unable to persuade them to stop. He agrees that her master, Epée, is a fearsome man, as he already knew. He details how Epée rejected the sword and crushed his protective pendant. A flash of motion depicts the swift, decisive action of Epée's hand. Epée had told him that the one he must truly trust is not the order, but Senri. The master had commanded him to return the sword to her personally. A hooded End gravely informs Senri that her former comrades will certainly pursue her. With a somber expression, Senri quietly accepts the grim reality of her situation. From beneath his hood, End observes her reaction with a cold, calculating gaze. Gazing at the moon, his internal thoughts condemn him as a truly terrible man. He reflects on how he exploited Senri's feelings, kindness, and sense of justice. Having become the forbidden undead lord, he feels his morality is now irrelevant. In a dark, rain-swept vision, he resolves to use every possible means. Amidst a scene of utter destruction, he commits to sacrificing everything if necessary. He decides to exploit all human emotions, kindness, anger, and delight, as tools. With a disarming smile, he extends his hand, inviting Senri to flee with him. As their hands join, his thoughts reveal his desire for a freedom without death. Senri, with a soft and trusting smile, accepts his proposal without any hesitation. On a dark precipice, he resigns himself to becoming the world's most fearsome monster.